Chapter 6:14. After Yihua left, Dongfang Yuan, who was at the side, asked curiously, "This?" Brett stroked Absolute Heaven's fur and said with a light smile, "This is Absolute Heaven." "Ah!" Guan Yinxin cried out in surprise. They had never seen Zhu Tian's original body before. She never thought that the man she liked was actually a cute kitten. So cute. Dongfang Yuan did not feel anything at all. There were even skeletons in the team. Compared to them, Absolute Heaven was much more adorable. Brett also smiled sweetly and said, "Yeah, I've never hugged him before." So obedient. "I want a hug too," Guan Yinxin said from the side. Zhu Tian usually had a cold expression on his face, causing Guan Yinxin to not dare to tease him. Now, she finally had the chance to bully him. Brett was much more magnanimous now, and he passed the cat version of Absolute Heaven to Guan Yinxin. Guan Yinxin hugged it in her arms and exclaimed that it was so cute. As for Absolute Heaven waking up at that time, that would be truly despairing. He would be abused by these three women. Yihua returned back to Leisure Bar once again, and was preparing to make a Chinese jianbing to eat. However, when he walked to the entrance of the alley, he didn't see the auntie selling jianbing, and suddenly, he thought of something. Could it be that Wuli had gone? "You didn't listen to my advice?" Standing at the entrance of the alleyway, Yihua let out a breath. If this Wuli really left, I reckon that he wouldn't be able to come back. As for aunties, perhaps I won't be able to eat that hot fruit pancake anymore. At this time, the auntie was still waiting for her child to come home. She had been away for a few days, and logically speaking, she should be back soon. In order to wait for her son to come back, the aunt didn't go to set up her stall for the past few days. However, the more she waited, the more anxious she felt. As the days passed by, the old lady also saw the news. Voidless Realm had actually massacred 300,000 people. Although I don't know what Voidless Realm is, I recognize the woman who appeared on the television. Isn't that young man's wife? He had even bought some pancakes from his stall. The middle-aged woman did not think that this woman was a heinous person. She wondered if the report was wrong. After seeing that so many people had died, the big aunt also felt that the world had changed, and it didn't seem like a complete world anymore. It was too cruel. Ding dong. Ding dong. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. The auntie paused, and a smile appeared on her face. It seemed that her son had returned. This isn't right. My son should have the key, why would he press the doorbell? The middle-aged woman walked to the door, still very vigilant. Who is it? Standing outside was the man who had received the suicide note back then. It had been a few days since he had delivered it. This feeling was really not good, especially when he saw the lifeless eyes of the other party's family members. Moreover, this family was the family of a squad leader. "I'm here to deliver a letter," the man shouted from outside. The auntie was even more confused. Were there still people delivering letters in this day and age? Could he be a swindler? That's why he wouldn't open the door. "Leave, or I'll call the police," the middle-aged woman shouted. "Auntie, it's your son's letter," the man shouted again. The middle-aged woman didn't believe it. Her son had never sent a letter. "My son will call me if he needs anything." The man let out a light sigh. "I can't bear to say that this is a will, but at the very least, I have to hand this will over to the other party. Auntie, this is your son's will." "A will?" The middle-aged woman was shocked. She didn't care if the man was a scammer or not. She opened the door and said, "What did you say? How could my son write a will?" The man first bowed to the middle-aged woman, then handed over the letter with both of his hands. "Auntie, my condolences." The middle-aged woman's gaze stared fixedly at the pure white envelope. She stretched out her trembling right hand, and a bad premonition emerged from the bottom of her heart. "Auntie, Captain Wu sacrificed himself for peace and justice, please," the man said gravely, but he wasn't able to finish what he wanted to say. The middle-aged woman didn't hear what the man said at all. Her trembling hand tore open the envelope, took out the letter inside, and slowly opened it. At the bottom left corner of the letter, there was even a bloodstain. Dear Mother, if you read this letter, it means that your son is no longer able to fulfill his filial duties. I'm sorry. When the middle-aged woman saw this line of words, the middle-aged woman felt that the world was spinning, and the man hurriedly held on to her. The middle-aged woman sat on the ground paralyzed. Looking at the words that her son wrote, her tears wetted the letter one by one. When the middle-aged woman finished reading the letter, a mournful wail suddenly broke out. Son! My son, why did you leave your mother alone? The middle-aged woman shouted in pain as she pounded on her chest. The man took a deep breath and squatted down. Auntie, I'm sorry. The middle-aged woman grabbed onto the man's shoulder and shouted out miserably, Tell me, how did my son die? I beg you to tell me. Auntie, you should have seen the report on the news. Captain Wu is inside the report. Captain Wu sacrificed himself for the sake of righteousness. Auntie, you should be proud of your son. No. I don't want to be proud, I only want my son back. Return my son back to me. The middle-aged woman was completely confused as she shook the man with all of her might. Towards this kind of situation, the man had encountered it before, and thus, he comforted the middle-aged woman properly. Auntie, quickly enter the house. The middle-aged woman shouted out while crying, That is my son's corpse, where is his corpse? I'm sorry, everyone's corpse was buried in that desert. After finished speaking, the man turned around and left. At the moment when the elevator door closed, the man heard even more miserable wails coming from outside. Perhaps Yihua still didn't know about this matter, but back then, he also advised Wu Li to just properly accompany the middle-aged woman and not think about other things. Unfortunately, between happiness and despair, Wu Li still chose despair, and left his old mother alone. On this day, Yihua was currently teaching his son how to wield a sword. The little fellow, Yi Yan, had also grown a bit taller, and the sword that he was holding onto was even longer than him. Hold on to the sword firmly. Yihua shouted out gravely. Yi Yan's gaze was very firm, even though his hands were trembling, he was still holding onto the sword's hilt tightly. Dong Huangli, who was at the side, appeared very calm, looking as if she had been abused by her mother. Yihua took a sip of tea, his gaze was calm, and he had the appearance of a strict father. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji sat at the side and began learning how to knit a sweater. From time to time, they would turn around and look at their child, and a smile could be seen on the corner of their mouth. This kind of life sure is warm. Right at this moment, Yihua received Wei Chang's voice transmission. After hearing it, Yihua's brows wrinkled. Auntie actually came to the bar. This has never happened before in the past. Could it be that, Yihua, what's the matter? Qingye and Donghuang Baiji felt the change in their husband. After all, it was very rare for Yihua to frown, and as long as he frowned, it would be a big matter for him. Thus, the two women became confused. Yihua took a deep breath. Auntie came to the bar. Auntie? Is it the auntie who sells crepes at the alley entrance? Qingye asked tenderly. Chapter 6:15. Auntie, what are you doing at leisure bar? What's the matter? Donghuang Baiji asked curiously. Yihua let out a light sigh, then looked at Donghuang Baiji and said, Auntie's son is most likely among the 300,000 people, and Auntie has also seen you before. With that, the two girls understood that the auntie was here to settle the score. In actuality, I had already tried to persuade her son, but unfortunately, her son still chose a path of no return. Donghuang Baiji felt that she should go and explain to Donghuang Baiji that she and the others did not kill her son at all. Yihua, I will go with you to explain. Yihua said faintly, No need, I can go by myself. Yihua felt that it was useless to explain too much. If there was a cause, there would be an effect. This was a fact that could not be changed. I, the Supreme Overlord, am not a good person. I am already doing my best to persuade my beloved wife to explain such a thing to me. With a heavy heart, Yihua arrived at Leisure Bar, and Blood Demon was currently waiting respectfully for him. Your Honor. Where is he? Yihua asked. Blood Demon lowered his head and said, Stand outside. Stand? Why didn't you let her in? How long has it been? Yihua's tone sank. Right now, it was currently a thunderstorm. The Blood Demon didn't understand why his honor was angry, but he still lowered his head and said, It has been 2 days. 2 days. Why didn't you inform me earlier? Yihua hurriedly walked out. To Yihua, this ant was the first human that dared to scold him. Of course, she was also the first human that Yihua didn't want to kill, and also the first human that Yihua got to know. The Blood Demon had a terrified look on his face. His honor actually got angry because of a human. How is this possible? Yihua walked to the entrance of Leisure Bar, and sure enough, he saw that familiar figure that was currently being drenched by the heavy rain. Yihua materialized an umbrella in his hand and walked forward. With a wave of his hand, the ant's clothes that were originally wet became warm. Why aren't you coming in? Yihua asked gravely. The middle-aged woman looked up at the unfamiliar young man, her eyes devoid of any anger. Only after a long while did he finally ask. His voice was extremely hoarse. Can you return my son's corpse to me? Looking at the expectant gaze of the auntie, as well as the look of despair on her face, for the first time, Yihua had a different feeling. The face of despair wasn't that beautiful anymore. It had already been a few years since Yihua got to know the auntie, and what Yihua saw the most was the amiable smile on the auntie's face. Even when the auntie was scolding Yihua, the auntie's smile was still that kind of gentle. That kind of gentleness would probably never be seen again. Seeing that Yihua wasn't speaking, the auntie immediately kneeled down in front of Yihua and begged, I beg of you. Towards humans kowtowing to him, Yihua had always felt very comfortable in his heart. However, at this moment, Yihua was extremely displeased, and an evil aura gushed out from his chest. A desolate scene froze in front of them. A woman was kneeling in front of a young man with her head lowered. The sky was still pouring, and it was getting heavier and heavier. It landed on the ground with a rustling sound. Yihua tightened his grip on the umbrella and said in a low voice, I'm sorry. This was Yihua's first time apologizing to a human, and this was also Yihua's last time apologizing to a human. The rainstorm was still continuing, and the auntie slowly stood up. Without taking another look at Yihua, the auntie turned around and walked towards the entrance of the alleyway, and the clothes that she was wearing were instantly drenched by the rainstorm. At this moment, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji also jogged out of the house. The two of them leaned against Yihua's side and looked at that lonely and desolate back view of Yihua, all the way until Yihua disappeared from their sight. The pain of losing her son caused the auntie to lose her motivation to live. Yihua stood there for a very long time, and Qingya and Donghuang Baiji also accompanied the auntie for a very long time. The two of them were able to sense the emotions that their husband was currently feeling, and they knew that his mood was definitely not good. Let's go in. After a long time, Yihua said unhurriedly. After walking into the bar, Yihua sat beside the bar counter, and Blood Demon hurriedly poured a cup of wine for Yihua. Yihua had always been a person who took small sips of wine, but today, he took a sip of wine. However, all of this was because of a human auntie. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji sat beside their husband and accompanied him attentively. Yihua let out a breath, then said while wrinkling his brows, This auntie is the first person who dares to reprimand me. No, there are a lot of people who reprimand me, but all of them are dead. This auntie is the only one who made me. Speaking up to here, a ray of red light flashed past Yihua's eyes. Who am I to blame for all of this? Peace Association. Justice Alliance. Or Wu Li himself. Or even me. Hearing this, Blood Demon was also extremely shocked. That auntie actually dares to reprimand his honor. That auntie is actually still alive. That auntie actually dares to reprimand his honor. Yihua laughed lightly, however, this laughter contained a bit of self-mockery. The crepes that this auntie makes is the most fragrant that I have ever eaten. And she is also rather stingy. Every time, she would still charge me money. Doesn't she know that me eating at your place is already giving me a lot of face? And she actually still dares to charge me money. Yihua smiled and drank another mouthful of wine. Only now did Qinya and Donghuang Baiji realize that the position of auntie in their husband's heart was actually quite high. This was for sure. If not, why would Yihua help a human to teach his son a lesson, and even advise the human not to send his son to die? Xianba listened to Xianba's advice, but that Wuli didn't. After drinking a few cups of wine, Yihua took a deep breath and said, "This aunt is my first friend, and she might also be my last friend." After finished speaking, Yihua stood up and walked towards the stairs. "I need to take a nap." Blood Demon lowered his head and remained silent. So his honor is still so emotional. Qinya and Donghuang Baiji understood their husband even more deeply. So Yihua actually has such a side to him. I really didn't expect this. The two women followed Yihua upstairs, opened the bedroom door, and saw that Yihua was already lying on the bed. The two women didn't feel embarrassed. They took off their clothes, snuggled into their husband's embrace, and comforted him. That night, Yihua had a dream. In the dream, the auntie was still selling crepes at the entrance of the alleyway, and the auntie's face that was filled with wrinkles still had that same smile on it, and that auntie was looking at him. The next morning, the rainstorm outside had already stopped, and the sound of raindrops could still be heard coming from the eaves of the house. Yihua opened his eyes and returned back to his usual demeanor, then lightly hugged onto his two wives. After hearing that, Yihua let out a light chuckle. Two snorts. "Hubby, why don't you sleep for a while longer?" Qinya asked tenderly. "That's right, you woke up so early." Donghuang Baiji asked lightly with her beautiful eyes closed. Yihua said faintly, "I woke up to buy breakfast for you too, at the entrance of the alleyway." Speaking of the entrance of the alleyway, Yihua recalled what happened yesterday. Qinya and Donghuang Baiji, who were in Yihua's embrace, immediately opened their beautiful eyes. Donghuang Baiji said tenderly, "Hubby, I will go and make breakfast for you. And, the two of us will make breakfast together, you go and sleep first." After finished speaking, the two women got up and went to prepare breakfast. Meanwhile, Yihua lay on the bed for a while, then put on his clothes, went downstairs, and walked out of Leisure Bar. Chapter 6:16. I almost can't recognize Yihua anymore. Donghuang Baiji mumbled. In Donghuang Baiji's heart, Yihua's style of doing things had always been iron-blooded, to the point where he wouldn't even give any face to his subordinates, let alone an auntie who was only selling Chinese crepes. Qinya said lightly, "Perhaps, it's because we still don't know enough." In actuality, Qinya had known Yihua for a slightly longer time than Donghuang Baiji. In Qinya's heart, Yihua was an extremely cold and indifferent man, and it was to the point that Qinya even had a kind of feeling that Yihua didn't like people. However, every time Qinya followed Yihua to the alleyway to buy breakfast, she would be able to feel that at that moment, Yihua would loosen up a bit. Perhaps, Yihua had treated this auntie as a relative, and only a relative would accept the other party's reprimand. Yihua, who walked out of Leisure Bar, looked towards the entrance of the alleyway, and his gaze immediately became serious. A familiar stall, and even that familiar back view. Yihua walked over with large strides. It was unknown what his mood was right now, but in any case, it was the kind that was very complicated. However, when he walked closer, he discovered that he had actually seen wrongly. This was indeed an auntie, but she was no longer the auntie from before. However, the cart was exactly the same. "Hey handsome, do you want one?" The woman selling pancakes turned her head and asked with a smile. Yihua's face sank, and soon after, he shook his head, "No need." With the change of people, the popularity of the fruit pancake was also taken away. The woman smiled and said nothing. After a short while, Yihua asked, "What about the person who sold the medicine here earlier?" The woman turned around and smiled. "Oh, you mean Su Qin? She sold this tool to me. I heard she even sold her house. She seems to have returned to her hometown." "Su Qin, so this aunt's name is Su Qin," after so many years, I only found out today that this name is very nice to hear. In the future, don't set up a stall at the entrance of this alley." Yihua shouted out coldly. The woman immediately wrinkled her brows, and when she came into contact with Yihua's bone-piercingly cold gaze, she immediately got a fright. Muttering that he was sick, she hurriedly pushed the cart and left. Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and looked at the familiar position. It was as if he could hear an auntie saying beside his ear, "Young man, you have to pay for the extra egg." After finishing smoking the cigarette, Yihua extinguished the cigarette. It seemed like he had also extinguished the past that was hard to come by. At the moment when Yihua turned around, Yihua was still that supreme overlord. Those who complied would still have a sliver of hope for survival. Rebel. He could only go to hell to repent. Yihua returned to the leisure bar, and Qingye and Donghuang Baiji came out with congee with pork and century egg. "It's still very hot." Qingye placed the breakfast in front of her husband. Yihua laughed lightly, then picked up the spoon and lightly shook it for a bit, then took a small bite. It was very comfortable. It turned out that his wife's cooking also tasted like this. After enjoying his wife's breakfast, Yihua returned back to Voidless Realm together with his wife. "I feel that the taste of Leisure Bar has changed a bit. Without the Chinese crepes from the morning, Leisure Bar seems to be incomplete." As for what happened next, it was very simple. They just had to slowly wait for the matter to ferment, and the next time they would be greeted with utter pain and despair. I never joke around. It must be the deepest despair. 1 week's time passed by very quickly, and just like what Yihua had expected, the incident of killing 300,000 people had become more and more influential. The banner of eradicating evildoers had even been raised, and demonstrations had appeared all over the place. Voidless Realm had become the most searched term on the internet, and various foreign powers had also started investigating this mysterious Eastern organization. To think that they would actually be so cruel and ruthless. It was a pity that Voidless Realm was located in a desert, and the danger of that place was not something that ordinary people could deal with. Even the exact location of Voidless Realm was not something that could be obtained by ordinary people. Qing Tiandi liked this kind of effect a lot. The bigger the commotion, the better. Those old monsters shouldn't be able to sit and do nothing. After all, Voidless Realm is a good thing. Small world. This is a big treasure. Qing Tiandi took out his Nokia from his pocket and dialed a number with a smile on his face. When the call was connected, Qing Tiandi laughed. "Brother Sin, it's me, Qing Tiandi. Let's meet?" "All right." Qing Tiandi continued to call. "Brother Chu, it's me, Qing Tiandi. Let's meet?" "When?" Chu Ying asked faintly. "How about Tuesday?" Qing Tiandi laughed. "No, I have to go to work." "You can't possibly work overnight, right? Let's do it on Tuesday night." Qing Tiandi laughed. Chu Ying remained silent for a while, then said, "All right." Qing Tiandi continued to make the third call. "Big Sister Jiu, it's me, Tian Tiandi. Let's meet up on Tuesday night, how about it?" From the tone of the call, Qing Tiandi seemed to be a bit low profile. A ghost-like voice rang out from the phone. "Tuesday night, I have an appointment with someone to play mahjong." "Big Sister Jiu, we can play mahjong anytime." About Voidless Realm, Jiu Ling remained silent for a while, then said faintly, "All right, I'll cancel this game then." "I'm really sorry." Qing Tiandi laughed. Jiu Ling responded and hung up the phone. Qing Tiandi continued playing mahjong. "Brother Xiaotian, are you still cooking?" Qing Tiandi heard the sound of the stove and the sound of the spatula ringing out from the phone. "Sure," Xiaotian said impatiently, "if you have something to fart, then say it. Let's meet up on Tuesday night." "I'm not free." "Don't worry, I won't disturb your brother Xiaotian cooking." However, right at this moment, the manager's scolding voice rang out from the phone, and even Qing Tiandi heard it. "Sure, Xiaotian. How long do you take to cook? Do you not want to work anymore?" "Coming right away, coming right away." Sure, Xiaotian said gravely, let's talk about it when the time comes. Hearing the busy tone that came out from the phone, Qing Tiandi shook his head helplessly. These old monsters really can't sit still. I have to invite them one by one. Don't they know how to do it themselves? One is more and more crafty than the other. It is only I, Qing Tiandi, who is too naive. Right now, Li Han, who had reincarnated, cut a man's neck, and a young lady was so frightened that she hid at the corner of the wall. There isn't a single good thing in men. Do you know? You have to rely on yourself. Li Han shouted lightly towards the shivering young lady. Shaking off the blood on the knife, Li Han walked out of the house. These few days, I have already killed a lot of men. Killing is especially satisfying. In any case, as long as I see other people being sweet and affectionate, I will know that that man definitely doesn't have good intentions. Kill. Seeing other people quarreling, scumbag. Kill. In any case, I am going to kill all the bad men in the world. Men are not good things. Other than lying to others, there is nothing else. Li Han's current state of mind was the typical one that couldn't bear to see other people doing well. Why can other people be more fortunate than me? Just for the sake of satisfying myself by killing everyone. But right now, killing ordinary people is no longer enough to satisfy Li Han's needs. Even though I am so strong, I have still been deceived by men. If I want to kill, I must kill strong men. That way, I can save more women. Beauty, it is very dangerous for you to stand at the side of the road. Dou Fusher looked at Li Han, who was in a daze, and shouted. This woman is really beautiful. Chapter 617. Li Han took a glance at Dou Fusher, then turned around and left. Why didn't he kill Dou Fusher? That was because Dou Fusher did not have a girlfriend by his side. If there was a girl by his side, Li Han would definitely kill all the heartless men in the world. Dou Fusher should be glad that he does not have a girlfriend, right? However, after seeing Li Han leaving, Dou Fusher did not have the intention to strike up a conversation with her. Dou Fusher's current action had undoubtedly saved his life once again. If he had gone to strike up a conversation with her just now, before he could even shout for help, he would have been killed by Li Han. Dou Fusher had unintentionally saved his life twice. Dou Fusher, who turned around and left, muttered, I did a divination today, and my life is in danger. Seems like I have to be careful and not get hit by a flower pot. I have to be careful when crossing the road, and not get hit by an electric bike. I am Dou Fusher, a gold raider. How can I die? Hee. In the blink of an eye, it was already Tuesday night. Qing Tian appeared on a street that was filled with midnight snacks, casually found a table outside and sat down, then began ordering. Although the world had changed, eating skewers for midnight snacks had never changed. Enjoying delicious food was a kind of enjoyment. This streaky pork is not bad, give me another 20 RMB. Qing Tian shouted. He felt that it was not bad. Sure, give me another case of beer. Okay, coming right up. While eating the skewers, Qing Tian leisurely waited. Suddenly, a fat man sat down. This man's fat was not fat, he was muscular and sturdy. He was the chef Shi Xiaotian. Damn! Why did you call me here? Shi Xiaotian took out a bottle of beer and directly bit open the bottle cap with his teeth, then raised his head and started drinking. Then, he grabbed the skewers and started eating, causing the surrounding people to sigh, but they did not dare to do anything. This Shi Xiaotian's physique was truly a bit scary. Brother Xiaotian, don't be anxious, there are still a few people. Qing Tian smiled. Shi Xiaotian snorted and continued eating. Not long later, a woman who wore a white big round hat and a noble white evening dress leisurely walked over, causing the surrounding men to be dumbstruck, and some even whistled. The woman didn't seem to mind. She even winked at the drunk men teasingly. Sister Nine, you're here. Have a seat. Qing Tiandi was also very polite and personally set up a chair for Jiuling. Jiuling chuckled, heaven and earth, you're not stingy today. Hee, He made such a big move recently, how can he be stingy? Shi Xiaotian picked his teeth with a bamboo stick. I'm just acting as your vanguard. Just as he finished speaking, a bicycle stopped beside him. Chu Ying arranged her tools and sat down with a smile. She didn't say anything. As soon as Chu Ying sat down, a child carrying a school bag also sat down. Brother Sin. Qing Tian called out with a smile. Children are sins. Although he looked like a child, he was actually very old. Du Zui put his bag aside and picked up the beef tendon to eat. Qing Tiandi, why did you call us here? Qing Tiandi didn't beat around the bush. This little brother has already paved the path for you guys. Voidless Realm is just around the corner. Du Zui ate until the corner of his mouth was filled with grease. He didn't have the demeanor of an expert at all as he said vaguely, you did so much just to force us to come out, right? Of course not, it's been a long time since we got together. Besides, everyone knows about the benefits of Voidless Realm. How could the four of them not know about it? A small world, if it grows up, it will become a big world, and they will be the master of that big world. How exciting would that be? However, all experts wanted face, and without a good excuse, they didn't want to do something that would tarnish their reputation. And Qing Tiandi was going to pave the path for them, to openly fight their way into Voidless Realm. This was also the reason why Chu Ying asked Jiu Yi to do that, because that small world was truly too tempting. Jiu Ling said, Qing Tiandi, what are you thinking of to trick us again? Shi Xiaotian sneered, you're full of evil tricks, I won't believe you. Chu Ying's silence was Kim's philosophy. Big brother, big sister, why don't you all believe in me, Qing Tiandi? If we manage to take down Voidless Realm, wouldn't it be good for us to be the masters of Voidless Realm? Qing Tiandi maintained a smile on his face. Just like what Shi Xiaotian said, he was full of evil tricks. Qing Tiandi, do you think that we don't know what you are planning? Du Zui took out a napkin and wiped his mouth, then casually threw the napkin on the ground. Seeing this action, Qing Tiandi wrinkled his brows, but he didn't say anything. Jiu Ling took out a pair of sunglasses from her bag. If I had known earlier, would have gone to play mahjong. It's boring, I'll be leaving first. After finished speaking, Jiu Ling stood up and left. Shi Xiaotian drank another bottle of beer, then said, I'm going home to study the recipes. Du Zui carried his school bag and said lightly, I still have to go to school tomorrow. In an instant, 3 people left, and his first love was still sitting there. Qing Tiandi squeezed out a smile and said, Brother Chu, how about we work together? I still have to wake up early for work tomorrow, bye-bye. Chu Ying stood up and left on her bicycle. Looking at Chu Ying's back view that was getting further and further away, the corner of Qing Tiandi's mouth twitched slightly. His smiling face slowly darkened, and a trace of viciousness flashed past his eyes. After a long while, Qing Tiandi also stood up and left. Boss, you still haven't paid the bill? The boss hurriedly chased after Qing Tiandi and wanted to stop him. But before his hand could even touch Qing Tiandi's clothes, the boss was sent flying, and it was unknown whether the boss was dead or alive. Even the shop assistant didn't dare to chase after Qing Tiandi rashly. This man is a bit scary. However, if one were to observe carefully, a trace of an arc appeared on the corner of Qing Tiandi's mouth. High up in the night sky, the 4 people who just left were standing in the sky. This Qing Tiandi is still the same as before. Du Zui sneered. Jiu Ling laughed tenderly, doesn't that mean that he still wants to scam us? Shi Xiaotian pinched his neck and said eerily, I really want to wring his neck off. His plot didn't succeed, so he vented his anger on the boss. He really hasn't changed. Chu Ying chuckled. In fact, the 5 of them had cooperated before, but Qing Tiandi was trying to scam them, so the 4 of them didn't want to have anything to do with him. Sometimes, they even couldn't help but fight with him. However, they came from the same place and could be considered fellow countrymen. Killing one of them would mean one less. This time, we'll do it ourselves. Du Zui grinned. Qing Tiandi had done so much to pave the way for them, so there was no need for him to intervene. Chapter 618. When do we make our move? Chu Ying asked in a low voice. Right now, everything was ready and they could make their move at any time. Du Zui looked towards the direction of Voidless Realm, then said, "There is no time like the present. Since we have already come out, let's make our move tonight." Shi Xiaotian and Jiuling, who were at the side, nodded. Since they had already come out, they might as well finish what they had to do. Did they still have to choose an auspicious day? They didn't believe that. Meanwhile, in the middle of the desert outside of Voidless Realm, there was currently a bonfire, and there were a few people sitting around the bonfire. From time to time, those people would let out laughter. "Wife, grill a chicken wing for me right now." Yi Hong was rather manly. He was actually able to order Zi Shan, who was beside him, to grill a chicken wing for him. Zi Shan smiled gently and said, "All right, I'll grill some chicken wings for you." LV Liang smiled at the side and didn't say anything. "This is all because Zi Shan is giving me face. Once I go back, this little brother of mine will become a coward." Death Mage was sitting beside him. Sun Fong was not present today. After eating his wife's grilled chicken wings, Yi Hong sighed softly. "Uncle Wei, why did you ask us to take turns to guard this place? Could it be that someone else is coming?" Zi Shan took out a tissue and passed it to her husband. Yi Hong smiled as he took the tissue and wiped his lips. Zi Shan said, "Uncle Wei might have also received his honor's order to prevent anyone from launching a sneak attack on us. Then, if someone is really going to launch a sneak attack on us, then his honor's prophecy is truly incredible." LV Liang sighed with emotion, and within his mind, his honor's tall and sturdy figure appeared, and a blazing heat could be seen emitting out from his gaze. Death Mage let out a cold laugh. "His honor is a supreme overlord. How can we compare with his intelligence?" "There's nothing wrong with what Master Spellcaster said," Yi Hong said with a grin. "The reason why his honor is able to lead such a powerful team is all because of his own capabilities." Zi Shan laughed. "All of you are just a bunch of bootlickers. For example, I am his honor's brainless fan. His honor is so handsome." Facing his wife's limitless worship of his honor, Yi Hong asked curiously, "Then, is his honor more handsome, or am I, your husband, more handsome?" Zi Shan poked onto her husband's forehead unhappily. "Aren't you talking nonsense? It's definitely because his honor is handsome." Yi Hong felt as though a sharp sword had stabbed into her chest. It was so painful. LV Liang laughed out loud. "What you are doing is called masochism. I would never ask this kind of question, and yet, you are actually competing with his honor in terms of handsomeness. Little brother, you sure have guts." Yi Hong also discovered that she had misspoken. "I actually became so arrogant that I want to compare my looks with his honor. I'm ashamed." He silently prayed for his honor to spare his life. LV Liang took a look at the time. It was almost midnight. "It's time to change shifts." "That's right. It has been a long time since I last fought. If someone really comes, then hurry up and come." Zi Shan's hands were clearly a bit itchy. It was no longer interesting for her to abuse her husband at home every single day. Yi Hong said in a low voice, "Honey, haven't you hit me enough at night?" Zi Shan said casually, "If you are able to make my stomach become big, do you think that I would need to hit you?" "This isn't my fault," Yi Hong said embarrassedly. Speaking of which, it has already been a few months, but Zi Shan is still not pregnant yet. Could it be that it is that difficult for a deity to get pregnant? His honor's wives are already pregnant with their second child, and I didn't even get to see a single fart. Speaking of children, Zi Shan became angry. "If it's not your fault, then whose fault is it? You aren't even willing to work overtime. I'm just worried about you." "What worried about me? From what I see, you just don't want to have children." "When did I? Look. You aren't even irritated anymore." The husband and wife immediately started scolding each other. Zi Shan was the main attacker, while Yi Hong was the one who explained. Death Mage and LV Liang turned around and shook their heads helplessly. Death Mage thought to himself, fortunately, I am a skeleton, and I can't shoot anything at all. Meanwhile, LV Liang thought to himself, the blood race sisters didn't even mention about having children at all. If they are pregnant, then just raise them. If they are not pregnant, then it doesn't matter either. Right at this moment, 4 figures appeared at the side. To be more precise, there were only 3 figures, and one of them was a husky, sister-in-law. Greetings. The 4 people stood up and greeted respectfully. The 3 people who came were Lai Gu's 3 wives, Yi, Wen Xia, Bai Xiaozhen, and of course, there was also that Yun Lang who stuck out his tongue. Lai Gu's identity in the team belonged to his honor's direct subordinate, and his status was outstanding. Thus, his wives' status naturally rose as well. However, Yi, Wen Xia, and Bai Xiaozhen were still very amiable. They did not become arrogant because of their status, because they understood that if it wasn't for Lai Gu, it would be impossible for them to be standing here and serve the Supreme Overlord. This time, they took the initiative to participate in the mission, not for anything else, but because they wanted to bring honor to their husband and let his honor praise them. As a wife, this was something that was necessary. That's why, these 3 women are all smart women. If not, how would they be able to obtain Lai Gu's affection? Lai Gu was very picky. In the past, he would often change his female dragons, and now, it has already been a year, and it was still the same 3. From the looks of it, these 3 women had already charmed Lai Gu. You all quickly go back and rest, leave this place to us. Yi laughed lightly. In actuality, things like staying up all night can be handed over to other people, it's just that they took the initiative to request it. Sister-in-law, thank you for your hard work. LV Liang cupped her hands and said with a smile. After all, after acknowledging Lai Gu as his big brother, his hairstyle was split in the middle, and he looked very handsome. However, just as everyone was about to change shifts, an enormous spiritual pressure appeared in the sky. The 7 people and the husky looked up at the sky, and excitement could be seen in their eyes. They really came. His honor is so powerful. He was even able to guess this. The 4 people who came were naturally Du Zui, Jiu Ling, Chu Ying, and Shi Xiaotian. The 4 people stared at the bonfire, and of course, the people beside the bonfire also had puzzled gazes. Why would these people appear here? Shi Xiaotian asked curiously. However, he wasn't afraid, he was simply curious. Jiu Ling laughed lightly, there's even a dog, how interesting. There's also a skeleton, humph. Du Zui said coldly. Chu Ying asked puzzledly, is that the black gown? So what if it's the black gown? They are nothing more than a group of women. Du Zui said indifferently. He seemed very calm and didn't panic in the slightest. The 4 people in the sky were very calm and collected. The 7 people below were no longer calm and collected. Sister-in-law, look, it isn't time to change shifts yet, how about you all sit down and rest? Zi Shan said hurriedly. It wasn't easy for people to come and cause trouble for us, so how about we let them go? Not only are we able to fight, we will also be able to obtain his honor's praise. This is simply killing 2 birds with 1 stone. With a light smile on her face, Wen Xia said unhurriedly, Zi Shan, since you called us sister-in-law, you should listen to sister-in-law and go back and rest properly. You can just leave the matters here to sister-in-law. So incisive, even Yun Lang who was at the side nodded his head vigorously. No matter what, I came out from Voidless, and before I even had the chance to show off my might, I was completely oppressed by Big Sister. Now that the opportunity is here, how can I let it go? Chapter 619. LV Liang wouldn't let go of such a rare opportunity. She took out her mobile phone and pointed at the time. Sister-in-law, look, it's 11:59, it's not 12 yet. Bai Xiaozhen was still the same as before. She was a bit shy and said softly, LV Liang, jump. It jumped? LV Liang didn't react for a moment. She then looked at the time. It turned out that it had jumped to 12 o'clock. F***ck, how could this be? FK. Yi Hong had to fight for her wife. Sister-in-law, look, these people all came before 12 o'clock. Let us do it. Sisters-in-law, go back and accompany Big Brother. I'll keep watch tonight. Zishan felt very comfortable when she heard these words. Her husband knows that he is thinking for me. She flicked her hair that was messed up by the wind and said softly, Yi Hong, Zishan, didn't you two want to have a child recently? Hurry up and go back and give birth to your child. You can leave this matter to sister-in-law. Seems like this doesn't make sense. The 7 people immediately started a nervous debate. Yun Lang really wanted to say, I want to fight for it too, you all can't treat me like a dog, I also have human rights. The 4 people in the sky naturally heard their conversation, and their expressions turned ugly. They were actually arguing about such a thing. If they had the guts, they should attack together. Truly a bunch of people who don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Shi Shaotian twisted his thick neck and immediately released a wave of evil energy. It actually took on a physical form and the yellow sand was disintegrated by this evil energy. It was indeed very powerful. The 7 people arguing below became even more excited. Wow, so awesome, so cool. I will do it. I will do it, ignorance is human nature. I like these people, even though there's no sense of accomplishment in killing them. Jill Ling said indifferently, her beautiful eyes filled with killing intent. The child, Du Zui, revealed a mocking smile. What a fool. On the ground, Yun Lang barked wildly at the 7 debating people, woof, 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 Imperial translation, they are scolding us, and they are even scolding us for being stupid. Yi Hong suddenly thought of an idea and suggested, sister-in-law, why don't we each take a step back? The other party has 4 people, and we'll each send 2 people. How about that? Upon hearing Yi Hong's suggestion, everyone felt that it was feasible. He still nodded on behalf of the class, which meant that he agreed. Yi Hong's idea was to let his wife vent her anger so that she wouldn't take it out on him every day. Big brother, help me, please. Yi Hong begged LV Shu to give this opportunity to Zishan. If not, she would definitely not have a good time. Of course, LV Liang knew his little brother's pain. He patted Yi Hong's shoulder and said, little brother, I know your pain. When Yi Hong heard this, she felt wronged. Zishan is simply becoming more and more domineering. Zishan is simply riding on me every single day. Big brother, you are my real big brother. Yi Hong was very touched. Big brother was the best. Sai, you have to work harder as well and satisfy Zishan's request. After that, her attention will be placed on the child. Yi Hong nodded. She also wanted to, but she just couldn't get pregnant. Did she have to go to an andrology hospital? He did not know which one was better. Death Mage, who was at the side, condensed a death scythe in his hand, and under the illumination of the moonlight, a cold glint flashed across the death scythe. Needless to say, Death Mage and Zishan would definitely be the ones to fight. Zishan excitedly hugged onto her husband and gave him a French kiss. After that, she walked out of the room with a satisfied look on her face. LV Lu said with a smile, look, as long as you satisfy a woman, she will be completely obedient to you. Yi Hong felt that there was nothing wrong with Zishan's decision. Zishan was already very happy just now. I have to continue making Zishan happy in the future. In another class, the 3 women were discussing with each other, and Yun Lang was directly ignored. Yun Lang squatted at the side and let out a low groan of grievance. I, Yun Lang, also want my human rights. I also want to fight. You all can't do this. I want to report. As the big sister, she gave the 2 younger sisters the opportunity out of courtesy. Wen Xia, Xiaozhen, the 2 of you go and have fun, don't lose his honor's face. We understand. Death Mage, Zishan, Wen Xia, and Bai Xiaozhen could be seen walking out of the room. Du Zui, Jiuling, Chu Ying, and Shi Shaotian descended from the void as well. Looking at the 1 man and 3 women in front of them, Death Mage's appearance was rather intimidating. However, the other 3 women looked extremely weak, as if they would be sent flying with a single slap. Duzue pointed at Death Mage and hooked his finger, then lightly leaped onto the ground. Death Mage vs. Duzue. Shi Xiaotian clenched his fists, letting out cracking sounds as he shouted towards Bai Xiaozhen, "Beauty, come over and play with me." Bai Xiaozhen pursed her lips, then went to the side to fight with Shi Xiaotian. Bai Xiaozhen vs. Shi Xiaotian. An evil smile appeared on the corner of Jiu Ling's mouth as she pointed at Wen Xia. "Let's play with you then." "All right." Wen Xia's expression was still as cool as ever, and her voice was very cold as well. Wen Xia vs. Jiu Ling. Chu Ying was definitely going to fight against Zishan. Zishan vs. Chu Ying. "Wife, do your best." Yi Hong placed both of his hands on the side of his mouth and shouted loudly. Zishan turned around and blew a kiss to her husband, then walked to the side to fight with Chu Ying. For battles were about to begin. First battle. Death Mage vs. Duzue. The two stood on the pitch-black ground of yellow sand, and spiritual pressure that could make people feel fear was being emitted from their bodies. Even the mutated animals in the surroundings didn't dare to get close to them. From this, it could be seen that this Duzue was a very relaxed person. Without strength, how could he possibly come and fight against Voidless Realm experts? Furthermore, there were only 4 of them. However, Death Mage wasn't a benevolent person either, and the scythe of death that was in his hand was emitting a terrifying aura. "Lowly outsider, today, I, Duzue, shall help you." For Duzue, who was carrying a school bag, to say such a thing was indeed a bit strange. Death Mage, GGG. Imperial translation, "You little trash." Duzue naturally didn't understand what Death Mage meant. Duzue sneered, then immediately emitted out his aura, causing a gale to howl, and the spiritual pressure to increase explosively. The black robe that was on Death Mage's body fluttered madly, and his pair of bony feet sunk deep into the yellow sand. Duzue stretched out his small palm and placed his right hand on his left wrist, then shouted out explosively, "I'll send you to hell." Boom! A white light could be seen shooting out from Duzue's palm, which immediately illuminated the dark world. The huge spiritual pressure split the yellow sand into 2. Death Mage stared fixedly at the incoming white light. The scythe of death that was in Duzue's hand was immediately stabbed into the yellow sand, and a huge black barrier appeared in front of Death Mage. Suddenly, the white light collided with the black barrier, causing a loud sound to ring out. Yi Hong and the others couldn't help but turn their heads around and take a look at the black barrier. The battle has already started so quickly, look at them, they are still chatting with each other. The black barrier was able to withstand the attack without any difficulty. This caused Duzue's brows to wrinkle. Then, Duzue transformed into a meteor, and his small fist immediately smashed onto the black barrier. Crack! Cracks appeared on the black barrier like it was made of glass. Frightening spirit chi immediately spread out, and a wave of chi immediately spread out. This Duzue was actually able to destroy Death Mage's black barrier with a single punch. From this, it could be seen that Duzue's strength was rather terrifying. Chapter 620. Humph. You dare to use such insignificant skills in front of me, Duzue. Duzue shouted out in disdain. However, right after he finished speaking, a silver light descended from the sky. Duzue's eyes narrowed, and a long and thick rod appeared in his hands. Death scythe and the rod collided. Bang! A loud sound reverberated throughout the world, and a ring of light spread out in all directions, which actually caused a sandstorm. Duzue raised the thick rod in his hands and laughed lightly. You have a bit of strength, but it is not enough. GGG, Imperial translation, where did you get your confidence from? Death Mage's bone finger immediately emitted an electric light, which was then transferred to his scythe. It could be seen with the naked eye that Duzue's rod was conducting electricity. Zizi, a terrifying electric current flashed across Duzue's body, and one could even see Duzue's skeleton. Duzue's entire body was emitting smoke and was trembling violently. Looking at it from afar, Duzue looked a bit like a primary school student in a bar. Zoe was dancing and had an afro. A green smoke was emitted from the top of Zoe's head, and there was also a smell of roasted fur. The smell was very uncomfortable. However, Zoe didn't seem to be affected much. Instead, his expression became even more ferocious, and he tightly held onto the rod in his hands. "You actually injured my body," Zoe muttered to himself. "It has been a long time since I received such an injury, and I was actually injured by a puny outsider." Overlord boom. Zoe could be seen raising the rod in his hands high, and the rod immediately emitted a terrifying pressure, causing the surrounding air to instantly boil and distort. The original metal rod also revealed its true form, and it was completely golden. As expected of a nouveau riche. Zoe's gaze locked onto Death Mage, and the golden rod in his hands descended. However, in the instant that the rod descended, the rod actually became bigger, and it was really thick and long. Before the rod even landed on the ground, the spiritual pressure had already split the yellow sand apart. Death Mage silently looked at the rod that was descending towards him. Of course, he wouldn't use his strength to fight against the rod. Last time, when he fought against Xiao Yi, he learned a bloody lesson. Fortunately, my master was merciful and revived me. I won't make this kind of mistake twice. Alright, this will be the last time. Forget it, the opponent's strength was more than a level higher than Xiao Yi's. The golden club smashed down towards Death Mage along with blazing flames. An array of red light flashed past Death Mage's empty eyes. GGG, Royal Translation, Absolute Domain. Suddenly, a strange formation covered the yellow sand, making everyone gasp in amazement. Damn, the Master Mage is so strong. LV Liang exclaimed. Yi Hong also muttered, "Yeah, I feel like no one is a match for it under this absolute domain." Everyone at the side still tacitly agreed. It could be seen that Death Mage was indeed very powerful. The husky that was squatting on the side licked its feet in boredom. "I want human rights." In the middle of the stage, a gigantic golden rod descended from the sky. Death Mage did not dodge the attack and just stood there. He did not even bother to defend himself. "Die, alien!" Zoe shouted angrily. The child's voice suddenly became old, and carried a cold wind with it. Bang! The golden cudgel had indeed smashed down, but it was shattered into pieces. The cudgel turned into specks of starlight in front of Zoe's astonished eyes, and rose into the night sky. What is going on? Zoe looked at the skeleton not far away in disbelief. He had clearly hit it. How could this be? Zoe looked at his own hands with a confused expression. This was the first time such a strange thing had happened. GGG, Imperial Translation, Little Trash, kneel down before this Master Mage. Boom! Zoe felt a tremendous spiritual pressure coming towards him, and his expression immediately turned sinister, and his legs began bending. Ha! Zoe shouted out angrily, and an even greater amount of spiritual energy emerged from his body to resist against the spiritual pressure. The skin on Zoe's face began falling off bit by bit, and his delicate skin also began degenerating, revealing wrinkles. In just a few moments, Zoe had turned into a short and small old man. Zoe's current appearance almost made Death Mage vomit. This is 2F** King disgusting. There are only a few strands of hair on Zoe's head, his back is hunched, and his teeth are all incomplete. Coupled with that sinister face of his, Death Mage looks extremely disgusting. If it was possible to vomit, Death Mage would definitely vomit without any hesitation. I will kill you. I will kill you, alien. I will use your bones to annihilate evil. Zoe roared towards the sky, and the layer of black clouds in the sky immediately dispersed, revealing a sky full of stars. Kill! Zoe shouted out angrily. Cold stars could be seen flickering in the starry sky, and Death Mage raised his head and looked at the stars. From the looks of it, Zoe still doesn't know what kind of situation he is in. The cold stars in the sky could be seen descending rapidly, and those were countless blades that brought along a scorching aura as they descended. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Blades that were formed by spiritual energy landed on the ground of yellow sand, and immediately, beautiful patterns were formed. Everyone's eyes couldn't help but brighten up. Looking at this scene, LV Liang couldn't help but say, "This move is pretty good for proposing." Yi Hong, who was at the side, silently nodded her head. Yi Hong still smiled and said, "Do you men really know how to be so romantic?" From the looks of it, what Yi Hong said revealed Lai Gu's true nature. Right now, Du Zui was gasping for breath as he slightly raised his head and looked at Death Mage, Dai. Countless blades that were formed from spiritual energy instantly aimed at Death Mage, and the blades that were formed from spiritual energy attacked towards Death Mage while emitting the aura of death. A shocking might shook the world, and everyone couldn't help but gasp. Death Mage let out a strange laughter once again. GGG, Imperial Translation, let me show you what is called absolute comprehension. Death Mage slowly raised his hand. "Damned alien, I won't accept your surrender." Du Zui shouted coldly. This damned alien dared to show off in front of him. Death Mage ignored Death Mage and placed his thumb and middle finger together. This scene made LV Liang and Yi Hong's jaws drop slightly. Holy shit. Even mages have learned his honor's unique way to act cool. Snap my fingers. LV Liang was dumbstruck. In actuality, I also want to act cool like this. This is too interesting. Yi Hong also had a look of envy on her face. She didn't have Death Mage's style and only knew how to use his fists to solve problems. Du Zui narrowed his eyes and looked puzzled. What was this alien trying to do? Pa. Death Mage lightly snapped his fingers, and the countless spiritual chi swords instantly stopped moving. This. The corner of Du Zui's mouth twitched, and he even rubbed his eyes. How is this possible? Was it an illusion? However, this was not the end. All the spiritual energy blades turned around at this moment and pointed at sin expiation. GGG, Royal Translation, in absolute comprehension. I am God. However, Du Zui could not understand Death Mage's language at all. He was stunned by the scene in front of him. Boom. 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 Countless spiritual chi swords attacked towards Du Zui. Immediately, a dazzling white light burst out from the spiritual chi swords and soared straight into the sky. Chapter 621. If there were no other factors, it would be quite beautiful. Gradually, the darkness shrouded the earth again. Du Zui was lying on the ground, gasping for breath. There were many bloody wounds on his body, but he was not dead. From this, it could be seen how strong Death Mage was. Death Mage was also a bit absent-minded. He actually didn't die. Interesting. He threw out a black shackle and bound Du Zui, waiting to be dealt with. Damned outsiders. Why are you so strong? Du Zui was still unwilling to accept this reality. How could his ultimate move be used against him? This was unheard of. Death Mage took out his phone and typed a few words before showing it to Du Zui. It's not that I'm too strong, it's that you're too weak. Puff. Du Zui couldn't help but vomit out a mouthful of blood. I didn't expect that there would be such a terrifying existence in this world. If I had known that it would be like this, suddenly. Du Zui seemed to think of something. Heaven and earth pillar, I'm going to kill you. Only now did Du Zui realize that he had fallen into heaven and earth's trap. Bastard. It seemed that he already knew about the situation here and deliberately said that tonight. He wanted them to come here and court death. At this time, Qing Tiandi was eating instant noodles and watching If You Are the One when he sneezed. Yi Zichen muttered, it's already spring, and it's still so cold, I have to wear more clothes. Shi Xiaotian versus Bai Xiaozhen. Shi Xiaotian, who was standing on the sand dune, revealed a playful smile. Such a delicate woman was just like a weak animal. He could easily strangle her to death. Kneel down and kowtow to Brother Xiaotian, and I'll spare your life. Shi Xiaotian twisted his thick arms. With a height of 2 meters, coupled with his physique, he looked like a small mountain in front of Bai Xiaozhen. Because she was on the night shift, Bai Xiaozhen wore a long down jacket. But now, she took off the down jacket and wore sportswear inside. Her arrogant figure was immediately exposed to the air. This caused Shi Xiaotian to be slightly stunned, and then he said with a smile, "What? Trying to seduce my brother Xiaotian? It's useless. I have no interest in you." Bai Xiaozhen slowly raised her arm, pointed her finger at Shi Xiaotian, and then crooked her finger. This was blatant teasing. Shi Xiaotian sneered. He had never seen such an audacious woman before. He roared in anger. His body immediately emitted a golden light, and thick blue veins popped out of his skin. His muscles also began to swell. Looking at him now, Shi Xiaotian looked like he was made of stone. Every muscle on his body was so explosive, as if they were made of carbon fiber. His huge fists seemed like they could shatter anything in the world. Although such a muscular man was huge, he would definitely be welcomed by young ladies, especially those who liked muscular men. "I really can't bear to shatter your body. But who told you to anger me?" Shi Xiaotian roared. His right fist sparkled with a golden radiance, bringing with it a boiling hot aura as he punched towards the petite Bai Xiaozhen. Bai Xiaozhen was only 168 centimeters tall, but in front of Shi Xiaotian, she was too small. His fist was as big as Bai Xiaozhen's face. The violent astral energy blew Bai Xiaozhen's beautiful hair into a mess. Her beautiful eyes were filled with the huge fist. Bai Xiaozhen slowly stretched out her left arm. This action caused Shi Xiaotian to laugh wildly. "You overestimate yourself. Go to hell. Be instantly killed by my strength." Haha. Boom. Under the fist, the yellow sand instantly flew into the air and spread outwards. A huge shockwave covered the sky and covered the earth. This was a confrontation of strength, there was no need to haggle over it. But Bai Xiaozhen was developed by Lai Gu, her strength was also able to destroy the world, causing people to be speechless. Just like the current Shi Xiaotian, that crazed smile on his face had become stiff. Bai Xiaozhen could be seen stretching out her slender index finger and tapping on the huge fist. If the camera zoomed in, one would discover that it was actually her fingernail that tapped on the huge fist. "You!" Shi Xiaotian muttered. He was completely unable to react to what was happening. The corner of Bai Xiaozhen's mouth curled up slightly. "My strength is not bad. You! To actually look down on me, brother Xiaotian. You have to pay the price for overestimating yourself." A golden light emerged from Shi Xiaotian's skin, and he was like a god that had descended to the mortal world. His stiff face became incomparably malevolent, and he clenched his fists tightly and raised them up high. "You are going to pay a painful price. Go to hell." Shi Xiaotian's fists flourished with golden light, and that scorching aura reverberated in the air, causing people to be filled with fear. From Shi Xiaotian's point of view, if he were to punch down with his fists, he would definitely be able to smash this woman into a meat patty. However, how is a man who raised his fists up high going to protect the treasures on his body? Not only is Bai Xiaozhen's strength great, her speed is also outstanding. Following Bai Xiaozhen's light shout, her slender and beautiful leg swept onto Shi Xiaotian's crotch. Shi Xiaotian, who was preparing to smash down, had his eyeballs about to pop out. "I never expected that this woman would actually play such a dirty trick. I can be considered to have gone through hundreds of battles. All of us have the rules of the underworld. Kicking someone's crotch is simply a child's play." Shi Xiaotian, who had an extraordinary aura just a moment ago, immediately held onto his crotch as if he was a cooked shrimp. "You slut, you actually plotted against me." Shi Xiaotian couldn't help but shout out. "Shameless to the extreme. You will definitely receive retribution." Bai Xiaozhen said in a low voice, "This is a move to guard against wolves. F***K. I am fighting with you. It's not like I want to sully you. What the hell are you guarding against wolves for?" The pain in his crotch caused Shi Xiaotian to sweat profusely. "Oh, is that so? I'm sorry, it was just a subconscious action. Bai Xiaozhen's words almost caused Shi Xiaotian to vomit blood from anger. Before Shi Xiaotian could react, Bai Xiaozhen's small fist directly smashed onto Shi Xiaotian's abdomen. The golden light on Shi Xiaotian's abdomen could be seen shattering into pieces. Shi Xiaotian wasn't sent flying. It wasn't that Bai Xiaozhen's strength wasn't enough, rather, Shi Xiaotian didn't want Shi Xiaotian to be sent flying. You! Sneak attack! Shi Xiaotian held onto his crotch with his left hand and held onto his abdomen with his right hand, then directly laid onto the pile of sand. These two blows nearly took Shi Xiaotian's life. After all, Bai Xiaozhen's fists and kicks weren't for show, and it was already a miracle that Shi Xiaotian was still able to speak. I thought that we were going to start fighting. Shi Xiaotian, if you don't follow the rules of the underworld, I'm not going to fight with you anymore, stinky woman. Shameless. Before Shi Xiaotian could even see clearly, his face was slapped by Bai Xiaozhen, and his entire body was sent flying. Bai Xiaozhen's face was ice cold. In this world, other than his honor and my husband, no one else can even think of scolding me. Shi Xiaotian, who was sent flying, laid on the pile of sand, and as if he had been slapped silly, he blankly stared at the starry sky. Shi Xiaotian's appearance was a bit similar to Feng Tian, who was slapped to the point that he became autistic. Chapter 622. Isn't it good for me to be a chef and research on recipes, and I actually came to this damned voidless realm. I must have been possessed by greed and was actually deceived by God raising heaven and earth. Thinking up to here, Shi Xiaotian seemed to have realized something. I fell for God raising heaven and earth's trick again. Bastard. I'll die a horrible death. Bai Xiaozhen slowly walked to Shi Xiaotian's side, then lowered her head and looked at Shi Xiaotian. What are you looking at? I'm going to, Before Shi Xiaotian finished speaking, Bai Xiaozhen punched towards Shi Xiaotian's abdomen once again. A hole was punched out from the entire yellow sand. How terrifying. However, Shi Xiaotian is still not dead. He is truly resistant to beatings, no wonder he had the courage to come to Voidless Realm. Bai Xiaozhen grabbed onto Shi Xiaotian's neck and began walking back. Shi Xiaotian was no longer the Xiaotian GE from just now, he was more like a dead GE. On the other side, Wen Xia versus Jiu Ling. The two women were the kind of women that were 1 in a million. Even in this kind of weather, Wen Xia's body was only wearing a black leather shirt and pants, but the tight-fitting clothes perfectly accentuated her curvaceous figure. She looked very cold and sexy. Jiu Ling, who was standing opposite of Wen Xia, looked very arrogant. She was wearing a white evening gown and a white round hat, looking just like a noble lady. Beauty, are you interested in following me? Jiu Ling said with a light smile, the corner of her mouth slightly raised. She is also a rare beauty. Wen Xia said coldly, not interested. Sigh, what a pity, I really can't bear to lay my hands on a beauty like you. That is if you can. Wen Xia sneered. I haven't fought for a long time, my entire body is itching. Beauty, your tone isn't small, I won't be polite then. Jiu Ling's expression gradually turned cold, and 2 daggers condensed in her hands. With just a look, one could tell that the daggers were not ordinary goods. I won't be polite either. Wen Xia's cold look was even more serious than Zishan. Even when facing Lai Gu, Wen Xia still had a straight face and rarely smiled. Perhaps it was because of this that Lai Gu liked Wen Xia a lot. He liked that cold look of hers, it felt very comfortable and pleasurable. Jiu Ling shouted, and her beautiful figure suddenly disappeared. In the blink of an eye, he appeared behind Wen Xia and stabbed his dagger towards her neck. However, Jiu Ling's eyes darkened. She immediately sheathed her saber and even abruptly pulled away. He looked at Wen Xia in disbelief. Many things had happened in that instant. When Jiu Ling appeared behind Wen Xia, her heart was filled with joy. She would be able to kill this cold and elegant woman with a single strike. However, just as she was about to stab into her delicate neck, Ling suddenly noticed that Wen Xia was looking at her, and a sense of danger swept through her body. She didn't think too much about it and immediately distanced herself. You! Beads of sweat appeared on Ling's forehead. Just from that moment, Ling felt the gap between them. This woman could actually discover him. It could be seen that her speed was also very fast, and she might even surpass him. Wen Xia slowly turned around and looked at Ling. Are you distancing yourself because you are afraid? I'm afraid of you? What a joke. Are you really not afraid? When Wen Xia said this, she had already appeared behind Ling and was even right next to her ear. Ling's expression changed drastically. Even she didn't notice this ghostly speed. What was going on? How could this woman's speed be faster than mine? The dagger in Ling's hand drew a beautiful arc in the air. The white round hat on her head was also sent flying by the force and fell onto the yellow sand. Wen Xia grabbed Ling's wrist and said softly, I really can't bear to kill a woman like you. Ling felt the force from her wrist and couldn't move at all. She immediately attacked with her left hand, but Wen Xia seemed to know what was going to happen and reached out to grab Ling's wrist. Ling's pretty face was filled with panic as her hands were held tightly by Wen Xia. Ha! Ling shouted and a terrifying spiritual energy burst out from her body. It was as if she wanted to use this method to break free from Wen Xia's restraint. But was Wen Xia that weak? She wasn't afraid of Ling's spiritual pressure at all. You! Who are you? Ling asked in a low voice. The pain in her wrist caused her to let go of the dagger and fall onto the yellow sand. Wen Xia snorted coldly, Who am I? The person who serves the Supreme Sovereign. After saying that, a terrifying aura burst out from Wen Xia's body. It was as if the entire air was trembling. Puff! Ling was forced to spit out blood by this terrifying aura. Her beautiful face immediately withered and revealed her original appearance. Looking at Ling's appearance, Wen Xia said indifferently, So you're old and can't even compare to me. Hearing this, Ling spat out another mouthful of blood. Her opponent was so powerful that she couldn't defend against it. She didn't even get to use many of her abilities before she was pinned down. But even if she did, it would be useless. This woman was too powerful. Just this aura alone was enough to make her spit out blood. How could such a person exist? What was wrong with this planet? Wen Xia didn't waste any more time and punched Ling's abdomen. This punch immediately scattered Ling's spiritual energy. In layman's terms, this punch had crippled Ling. At the same time, Wen Xia let go of Ling, blood flowed from the corner of Ling's mouth. Her withered face was filled with fear. She pointed at Wen Xia and shouted, You woman! How vicious! Vicious? You should think that I'm kind and didn't want your life. Wen Xia said coldly. There was not a trace of color in her eyes. After pausing for a moment, Wen Xia said again, Of course, I don't know if you'll be able to live or not, because you'll have to wait for my punishment later. Wait for my punishment? Ling thought about the Overlord Paramount that Wen Xia mentioned just now. These people are actually the subordinates of the Overlord Paramount. What kind of existence is the Overlord Paramount? Why didn't heaven and earth tell me about this? Or did heaven and earth know about this and did it on purpose? Ling finally realized that she was tricked by heaven and earth again and became his cannon fodder. This is what vicious means. Wen Xia grabbed Ling's neck and walked back. You're still too weak, you didn't allow me to use my full strength. This woman is actually so pretentious. Ling's lungs were about to explode from anger, but she was helpless and could only let Wen Xia grab her. Damn you, heaven and earth. Even if I die, I'll wait for you at the bridge of helplessness. On the other side, it was Zishan versus Chu Ying. Zishan rotated her neck and twisted her waist. She even did some stretching exercises and said with a light smile, I'm just doing a warm-up exercise. You can also do it, but be careful not to get cramps. Chapter 623. No, you can do it, Chewing said softly as she watched the woman in front of her doing chest exercises. LV Liang, who was far away, said in a low voice, "Little brother, your wife is too. I have to talk about it in the future. I simply can't bear to look straight at her." The corner of Yi Hong's mouth twitched slightly. His wife was actually doing chest expansion exercises in front of another man. Those who knew about it were warming up, but those who did not know would think that it was a crazy hint. I must talk to her tonight. Too unruly. This was too outrageous. LV Liang even reminded Yi Hua in a low voice, "Don't forget Big Brother's experience. It is a painful memory." Yi Hong looked at his wife, who was far away. That is absolute trust in Zishan. How could Zishan possibly do such a thing? Big Brother is trying to scare me again. Zishan sure knows how to have fun. The person at the side laughed lightly. Husky, who was squatting at the side, was listless. I also want human rights. Don't ignore my existence just because I'm a dog. Finally, Zishan did a set of broadcast calisthenics. Alright, let's begin. Chewing coughed a little, and with a soft shout, a long blade appeared in her right hand. As for Zishan, she condensed out a colorful long sword, which was emitting a unique spiritual energy. Not bad. You are a powerful character. Where are you from? Chewing asked curiously. Oh. You know about deities? Zishan was a bit surprised. This person actually knows about the existence of deities. Chewing chuckled. Of course, I'm also a god. My heaven's sanctum. Where are you from? The two of them started chatting as if they were from the same hometown. LV Liang poked her underling. See? They're already chatting. Be careful. Originally, Yi Hong had a confident look on her face, but when she saw that her wife was actually chatting with that person, they seemed to be quite happy, as if they were friends who had not seen each other for a long time. In an instant, they were in a bad mood and expressed their jealousy. Hearing Zishan's answer, Chewing smiled and said, "Tianfu, it is a big city. I am from Linwei City." Linwei? It's just a small place. It can't be compared to heaven's sanctum. Chewing smiled. Zishan replied with an "oh." So, it's a small place. How long have you been here? It's been a long time. I don't even remember. What about you? Chewing asked again. Me? I just came last year. Chewing nodded. I've heard that the Heaven's Sanctum's capital is very grand. I've always wanted to go there, but I've never had the chance. I'm afraid that there won't be another chance in the future, that Imperial City is already gone. Zishan smiled tenderly. This caused Yi Hong, who was far away, to immediately feel bad. His wife is even smiling. Oh. Did something happen in the imperial capital? Chewing asked curiously. Yes, they're all dead. It's very tragic. Chewing immediately frowned, her eyes filled with doubt. How could such a powerful place like the imperial capital be destroyed? Yi Hong couldn't stand it anymore. She ran to her wife and whispered, "What are you doing?" "Husband, this is someone from my hometown." We chatted for a bit longer. "This is my husband." Zishan actually started introducing her husband. Yi Hong almost fainted. Zishan wasn't like this in the past. Chewing nodded at Yi Hong as if greeting her. The latter nodded helplessly. "We're a polite party. We don't kill people randomly." "That's enough, husband, you should quickly go over, don't disturb my fight." Zishan hurriedly pushed Yi Hong away. "Really, all you know is how to be jealous. Then stop chatting." "I know." Looking at her husband leaving, Zishan smiled, "My husband likes to be jealous. He would get jealous after seeing me chatting with other men for a bit." "Hee hee, looks like you found the right person." "That's right, I'm quite lucky." Seeing how Yi Hong kept turning his head back every few steps, Zishan even blew a kiss to Yi Hong, telling him not to worry. Chu Ying's expression gradually darkened, then said faintly, "Let's begin." Zishan lightly sighed, then said, "You guys should just give up resisting, because there is no chance of winning." "Why?" Chu Ying asked in a low voice. "Do you know who destroyed the imperial capital?" Chu Ying remained silent. "It's us, and of course, the great overlord transcendent." When speaking about the overlord transcendent, Zishan's gaze revealed a burning admiration. She was simply like a completely different person compared to before. "You guys destroyed the imperial capital." Chu Ying found it hard to believe. There are as many experts in the imperial capital as there are clouds. How could the imperial capital be destroyed? "That's right, if you surrender, you might still be able to have your corpse intact." Zishan continued to persuade. "We're all from the same hometown, why is there a need to fight like that?" The blade in Chu Ying's hand emitted out a surge of evil aura. "None of my Lin Wei city's men surrender." Zishan understood and didn't continue to persuade. "All right. Take care." Chu Ying didn't say anything. The blade in her hand immediately unsheathed, and a berserk blade aura gushed out, instantly lighting up the entire sky, as if it was going to connect the heaven and earth. Puff! Chu Ying's expression darkened. She slightly lowered her head, and a sharp sword tip could be seen appearing on her chest, and on that resplendent light, there was even her own blood. "Just surrender, you are not my opponent," Zishan said in a low voice. "I feel that this person is still alright, so I don't want to be too ruthless." Chu Ying's expression tensed up, her heart was surging violently. "I don't even know when this woman appeared behind me, and I only felt a chill on my chest. When did such a powerful person appear in Heaven's mansion? Could it be that what she said was true? Was the imperial capital really destroyed by them?" On the other hand, Yi Hong, who was far away, was very happy. "Big brother, did you see that? My wife is still very awesome." LV Liang didn't deny it. "She is indeed awesome." Zishan, who was still standing at the side, snorted. "Men, hee." The green and red brothers had stupefied expressions on their faces. "What's wrong with this sister-in-law, for her to suddenly say such a thing? This is so strange." On the field, Chu Ying didn't pay any attention to the long sword on her chest, and the blade in her hand once again slashed towards Zishan. The blade was incomparably ferocious, and even if it meant that Zishan's wound would be pulled open, she didn't hesitate at all. Looking at the empty ground in front of her and the cold sword intent on her neck, Chu Ying's expression became gloomy. "Move again. I will kill you." Zishan changed her previous imposing manner and said with killing intent. The sword intent emitted out from the long sword in Zishan's hand had already sliced open Chu Ying's skin, and a stream of blood flowed out from her neck. Just as Chu Ying was about to make her move again, she suddenly saw a black-cloaked figure walking towards the bonfire, and behind the black-cloaked figure was actually Du Zui. Following closely behind the black-cloaked figure was Bai Xiaozhen. Bai Xiaozhen was actually grabbing onto Shi Xiaotian's neck and dragging him all the way over, and Shi Xiaotian was actually like a dead fish, completely not showing any reaction. There was also a woman who came over, and she actually directly threw the 9 spirits over. "I can't even sense the 9 spirits' spiritual energy. Your companion is already in such a state, are you still going to resist?" Zishan asked faintly. Chapter 624. "Let's go," Zishan said indifferently. Chu Ying seemed to have lost her soul as she walked towards the bonfire. Zishan also sheathed her sword. However, she did not feel satisfied at all. Her opponent was simply too weak. All 4 of them were taken down and stood next to the bonfire. Although they were all injured, none of them were dead. She continued to stare at the 4 intruders and shouted coldly, "Kneel." A ferocious aura burst forth from her delicate body, and a huge spiritual pressure pressed down on their backs like a mountain. Finally, they could not bear it any longer and knelt down. "Kill me if you want. But don't insult us," Du Zui shouted angrily. As Lai Gu's first wife, Yu's seniority here was also considered to be high, thus, Yu was the one to speak for the time being. "Insult? You guys are thinking too much. This isn't an insult, it's a pity. He still hinted to LV Tao to inform Wei Chang to come over. He couldn't go above his rank to report this matter. Who the hell are you people? How can Voidless Realm have you too? This is impossible. Jiu Ling was still unable to think through this problem. Voidless Realm is indeed powerful, but it is definitely not powerful to such an extent. You have a lot of questions, but as losers, you should act like losers. Just lower your heads and keep quiet. Haha. Bow my head to you? Don't even think about it. Du Zui laughed wildly, showing no sign of fear. Bai Xiaozhen's beautiful eyes narrowed, and she slapped the void. Pa! This sound was very loud, and it was enough to send Du Zui's teeth flying. Motherf asterisk cur. I will kill you even if I become a ghost. Du Zui spat out a mouthful of blood and roared at Bai Xiaozhen. If possible, Bai Xiaozhen wanted to kill this person. He was too disgusting. However, his honor didn't give me any orders, so I temporarily kept it. LV Shu also reported the situation to Wei Chang. At this time, Wei Chang was hugging Tang Wei and sleeping soundly. After hearing the report, he immediately woke up. Someone really dared to come. After putting on his pajamas, Wei Chang came over immediately. A black whirlpool appeared beside the bonfire, and when the 4 people who were kneeling down saw it, their gazes were filled with fright. The aura that was being emitted out from the whirlpool. It was too terrifying. However, when she saw a man who was wearing pajamas walking out, the corner of her mouth slightly twitched. This is different from what I thought it would be, Uncle Wei. Everyone present called out respectfully. Even Yun Lang lowered his head. Needless to say, the 4 people kneeling on the ground were amazed. These people were already very scary, but they were actually so respectful to a man in pajamas. This was a little scary. Who was this man in pajamas? What's going on? Wei Chang frowned. Being woken up from his sleep was definitely not a good feeling. Death Mage said respectfully, Master, those people were preparing to launch a sneak attack on Voidless Realm tonight, and we intercepted them. Wei Chang turned his head and looked at the 4 people kneeling on the ground. His eyes were so deep that no one dared to look at them. The 4 people didn't even dare to raise their heads. No wonder losers have to lower their heads, because they don't even have the courage to raise their heads. Who are you people? Wei Chang asked in a low voice. Jiu Ling didn't have much time to think and hurriedly explained, it's a misunderstanding, we were all deceived by someone. Oh, who? Heaven and Earth. He is the boss behind that Justice and Order Alliance, he has always wanted to mess with Voidless Realm. Du Zui hurriedly explained. The man in pajamas in front of him didn't even have any thoughts of resisting. Heaven and Earth. Wei Chang muttered. Originally, I didn't plan to inform His Honor, but since it was related to Heaven and Earth, I still have to ask for His Honor's opinion. Right now, Yi Hua wasn't hugging onto his wife to sleep. Instead, he was hugging onto his daughter and son. The 2 little fellows were nestled within their father's embrace and were sleeping very sweetly. Yi Hua, who was sleeping, was woken up by Wei Chang. Wei Chang. If you don't give me an explanation, watch how I am going to teach you a lesson. Yi Hua snorted. This is too outrageous. How many times have I told you not to contact me after 10 p.m., unless something big happened? Wei Chang's expression became respectful. Even though Yi Hua wasn't in front of him, Wei Chang still bowed down. When the others saw Wei Chang's expression, they definitely knew that His Honor was angry, and they bowed down as well. This action of Wei Chang's caused the 4 people to be stupefied. Just who are these people? Why did the scary pajama man become so terrified, as if he is afraid of something? Your Honor, there are ambushers outside. Wei Chang explained. However, this explanation made Yi Hua not very satisfied. Just kill them. Is there a need to report such a small matter? But they said that they were deceived by Heaven and Earth. Speaking of Heaven and Earth, Yi Hua's gaze became serious. After ending the conversation with His Honor, Wei Chang let out a breath of relief. I knew that His Honor had already gone to rest. It's all because of these 4 idiots. Is Voidless Realm a place that you all should come to? 8 people and 1 dog stood respectfully beside the bonfire. This kind of action made the 4 people who were kneeling down feel very heavy. They seemed to be waiting for someone to come out. Just who is it? The 4 people were unable to figure out who it was, but what they were sure of was that it was definitely an even more terrifying existence. Or perhaps it was that supreme overlord. Very quickly, Yihua's figure appeared. He was wearing a military coat, and he looked very, very sloppy. At the very least, that was what the 4 people who were kneeling down thought. Subordinates. We pay our respects to your honor. The 8 people's shouts were very intimidating in this quiet night, and it seemed as if their shouts had broken through the clouds. Wu Ha also kneeled down. Yihua waved his hand, and everyone stood up respectfully. Du Zui's mind was completely blank. This is the Supreme Overlord. I originally thought that it was that pajamas guy. I didn't expect that it would be that military coat guy. Jiu Ling looked at Wei Chang. This man is already very powerful. I didn't expect that there would be someone even more powerful. In Chu Ying's heart, those people just now were already extremely terrifying, and that pajamas guy was even more terrifying. But, I didn't expect that there would be another one. How am I supposed to live? Furthermore, these people are so respectful and even fearful towards the military coat guy. My God. Just what kind of person did I provoke? Shi Xiaotian remained silent throughout the entire process. As a big guy, to be beaten up by a woman, it's so shameful, even speaking feels like it's shameful, just them? Yihua muttered. Wei Chang stood respectfully behind Yihua. That's right, Your Honor. Yihua pointed at Chu Ying and said faintly, I am asking you, did God Atlas let you all come here? Chu Ying nodded her head, then said gravely, that's right, we were all tricked by God Atlas, that's why we came here. Yihua looked towards Jiu Ling and asked, what is the relationship between you all and God Atlas? How could Jiu Ling dare to hide anything from Yihua? Just hearing this man's question, I feel as if my heart is going to explode. Chapter 625. Yihua then pointed at Du Zui, why didn't Qing Tian and Tian Di come with you? Du Zui immediately said, Your Honor, although Qing Tian Di is with us, he is very cunning, we have suffered a lot of losses in the past, this time, he even used us as cannon fodder to test you. Are you trying to say that this God raising heaven and earth is your boss? Yihua asked indifferently. This God raising heaven and earth's brain is indeed not bad, and he is very good at reading people's minds. Jiu Ling lowered his head and said, Your Honor, this Qing Tian was originally one of us, we really didn't mean it, please spare our lives. What is the purpose of you all raiding Voidless Realm at night? Yihua walked to the side of the bonfire and sat down. Stretching out both of his hands, Yihua warmed himself up and stared at the golden-colored flames. The 4 of them remained silent for a moment, and then Chu Ying said gravely, Voidless Realm is a small world, we want to obtain it. Chu Ying thought that His Honor would be shocked by what she said, but who would have thought that after hearing what she said, His Honor did not have any reaction at all. The dog actually ran to the side to pee. How could you pee in such a serious situation? Can you have a bit of civility? So that's why you're here. What a pity. Yihua stood up and tightened the military coat that he was wearing. The night in this desert is indeed a bit cold. The 4 didn't understand what Yihua meant and were very puzzled. Just kill them. Yihua said faintly. There was basically no reason for him to kill them. Yes. Wei Chang replied respectfully without a trace of pity. If His Honor wants someone to die at midnight, then His Honor will definitely not let them live until midnight. The 4 people kneeling on the ground couldn't believe it. They were actually going to kill him. And in such a pretentious manner. Wasn't he afraid of being struck by lightning? Just as Wei Chang was about to make his move, Chu Ying suddenly burst into laughter. Shi Xiaotian, who was silent on the side, suddenly came back to his senses. Even Du Zui and Jiu Ling could feel it. Now that things have come to this, I can only fight. Hearing Chu Ying's words, Yi Hua, who was originally going to leave, suddenly turned around and asked faintly, "Let's take a gamble and turn a bicycle into a motorcycle? You forced us to do this." Just as Chu Ying finished speaking, her body emitted a faint light. Not only Chu Ying, but also Jiu Ling, Du Zui, and Shi Xiaotian. Yi Hua took out a packet of Furong Wang from the pocket of his military uniform, then took out a cigarette and lit it up. "There are a lot of people who wanted to fight against me, and in the end, all of them went to hell to gamble." Chu Ying sneered, "It's not certain who will go to hell." The four of them quickly formed hand seals, and a terrifying aura suddenly emanated from each of them. Even the 9 spirits, whose spiritual qi had been scattered, were the same. Just as Wei Chang was about to kill the 4 of them, Yi Hua stopped Wei Chang. "Let's see what they want to do." Spirit concentration transformation. The 4 of them shouted and a monstrous cyclone immediately swept across the area. A tornado descended from the sky and enveloped the 4 of them. Yi Hua laughed, "Interesting, using your life as the price to strengthen your strength. Your honor allows subordinate to go out and fight against the enemy." Zi Shan cupped her hands and shouted out, "This is the opponent that I want." Yi Hua said indifferently, "I haven't played for a long time, you all can back off." "Your honor," Lai Gu's 3 wives shouted out sweetly. "Why is it that whenever his honor meets someone who is slightly more powerful, his honor would snatch them away, leaving us, who are his subordinates, with no place to display our abilities?" Wei Chang's brows wrinkled, "Nonsense. You all dare to disobey his honor's order." The 4 women hurriedly knelt down and admitted their wrongs. "All right, I will forget about it this time. I hope that there won't be a next time," Yi Hua said in a low voice. As the saying goes, subordinates should act like subordinates. A party can be played around, but a proper business must be serious. "Thank you, your honor is blessed by the heavens." Yi Hua didn't say anything. "Don't you all have any new vocabulary? You all only say these few phrases every day. I am already sick of hearing them." Sensing the aura within the tornado, Yi Hua was indeed a bit surprised. The tornado seems to have already reached the strength of an overlord. This spirit concentration transformation is a good thing, but the price to pay for it is too heavy. Yi Hua can feel that their life force is slipping away. Why bother? Wouldn't it be better to just leave quickly? After the tornado disappeared, Yi Hua was still very satisfied with their current state. Her body was huge, reaching a height of 3 meters. Her head was Chu Ying's, her shoulders were Du Zui and Shi Xiaotian's, and her chest was Jiu Ling. Yi Hua guessed that the crotch position should be the one that holds up the heavens. "No wonder I would be able to trick you all like this, arranging a crotch position for you all. It is already very nice of me to not stab you all in the back." Power. Is this power? Ha 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 ha. Du Zui was able to feel the surging power, as if he is able to shatter this entire planet with a single punch. This feeling is truly incomparably powerful. Jiu Ling didn't expect that this attack would be so powerful, and her confidence immediately returned to her body. Jiu Ling let out an eerie laugh. "Even if I die, I will still drag you all down with me. Even if I die, I will still drag you all down with me." Chu Ying took a deep breath. "No matter how powerful you are, you will still die in this desert." Yi Hua had heard too many of such words. This is the confidence that power gives, and they think that they are able to crush their opponent. However, how would they know that I, the Supreme Overlord, am the source of power? Go and die. Tremble under my power. Shi Xiaotian shouted out, and his enormous body immediately shone with a golden light. Yi Hua could feel that his power was once again rising crazily. The entire desert was giving off an aftershock, and the sky seemed to have sensed this power as well, causing the sky to start rumbling. Yi Hua slightly raised his right hand and said faintly, "All power has to kneel for me." Following that, the sound of thumb and middle finger tapping on each other rang out. The group of 4 who were arrogant just a moment ago went into a daze. It was as if their bodies had been frozen, and even the expression on their faces was the same. A light breeze blew over, and Shi Xiaotian's enormous body instantly fell onto the ground like a pile of sand, merging together with the yellow sand on the ground. Seeing that his honor had displayed his might, everyone hurriedly kneeled down and shouted out, "His honor's power is boundless. Sigh, it is so lonely to be too powerful. I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to wash my hands of this world." After finished speaking, Yihua disappeared from the bonfire. Hearing his honor's lonely tone, as well as his honor's back view, everyone couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. As expected of our leader, this way of acting cool is so scary. His honor's snap of his fingers is so cool. Yihua was also feeling very helpless. Right now, I have fallen to acting cool in front of my subordinates, and I don't even have an audience anymore. If this continues on, it will be meaningless. After returning to the room, Yihua discovered that the two little fellows were sitting on the bed. "Daddy, Daddy," Yihua hugged onto the two children, "why are you both awake?" Big sister said that Daddy went to look for Mommy, and that Daddy isn't going to sleep with Yen anymore. Yi Yen, this little fellow, is becoming more and more clingy to his father, and Yi Yen is constantly following behind his father. Dong Wang Baiji is also the same. Her daughter is also following behind her father, and Dong Wang Baiji doesn't even care about her, the mother. Chapter 626. She even wanted to occupy her husband's body when he was sleeping at night, and if he didn't let her, she would cry and throw a tantrum. In Harbor City, God raising heaven and earth still hadn't slept yet. While watching the television, he muttered, "You guys can go and die." Yihua's guess was right. God raising heaven and earth was still brooding over the matter of his crotch. As expected of a narrow-minded man. This is God raising heaven and earth's true purpose, to kill others with a borrowed knife. In this competition, Yihua seemed to have fallen behind once again. Yihua knew about this, and his interest was piqued. This God raising heaven and earth's brain is indeed not bad, interesting. Meanwhile, Yihua was also thinking about how to get back at God raising heaven and earth, and how to make God raising heaven and earth disheartened. Directly show my strength in front of God raising heaven and earth? Too low. This isn't my style at all. Right now, I am playing with my brain. In the blink of an eye, another month passed. The voices of exterminating Voidless Realm seemed to have lessened by a lot, because there was no way to exterminate Voidless Realm, and they couldn't even find the place to exterminate Voidless Realm. Furthermore, no one dared to go to the desert, it was too dangerous, and people could die at any moment. Facing this kind of helplessness, everyone was helpless. However, another matter diverted everyone's attention, and that was the sudden appearance of a female demon who specialized in killing men. This caused the men to not dare to go out anymore. Furthermore, the situation was becoming more and more intense, and the influence of the situation was also becoming bigger and bigger. As the Peace Association and Justice Alliance, they definitely had to take action to deal with this woman. However, the people that were sent out basically never returned. The two organizations were having a headache. The female demon was simply too strong. This kind of action angered Li Hun even more, to the point where he started killing every man he saw on the streets. It was fine if a man walked alone, but as long as there was a woman beside him, he would be killed without saying anything. Li Hun was simply ferocious to the extreme. At this time, the single men sighed in admiration. It is so good to be single, why do I have to look for a girlfriend? Look at those men who have girlfriends, all of them died, how pitiful. Yihua naturally knew about this kind of thing, and he completely let it go. However, as the Empress of Voidless Realm, she had the responsibility to get rid of these people. How could Yihua possibly allow Dong Huang Baiji to act recklessly? This demoness was a bargaining chip that Yihua could use to teach heaven and earth a lesson. It would have been fine if Dong Huang Baiji didn't go and help heaven and earth, but Dong Huang Baiji still went and captured heaven and earth. However, this also caused Dong Huang Baiji to be a bit angry, and she had been ignoring Yihua for the past 3 days. Yihua couldn't be bothered to go and coax Yihua. If I were to go and coax Yihua, from now on, wait for me to think clearly about this problem. Yihua, look, Baiji hasn't eaten for an entire day, go and coax her. Qinya said tenderly while sitting in Yihua's embrace. Yihua snorted coldly, then lightly caressed Qinya's beautiful hair and said faintly, since she is so disobedient, why are you coaxing her? Baiji is pregnant and her belly is big. Even if you don't care about the big one, you have to care about the little one. Besides, pregnant women are a little emotional. You have to understand. That's right. Qinya persuaded Yihua attentively. I reckon that in the past, I would never have thought that I would have to ask my man to coax another woman. After thinking about it, Yihua felt that what Qinya said was right. No matter what, both of them are carrying my bloodline. It is normal for my temper to be a bit bad. Looking at her husband's expression, Qinya knew what to do. She stood up and took out a bowl of porridge. Here, properly coax him. You. Speaking up for others. Yihua said petulantly. Qinya laughed tenderly, then pinched onto her husband's cheek. Isn't it all for the sake of your harem? Can 2 still be counted as a harem? If you have the capability, then go and find 7 or 8 more for me. Only then can that be called a harem. Yihua. Qinya placed her hands on her waist and looked like she was about to get angry. Yihua snorted lightly. Would I, the Supreme Overlord, bother with a woman? Go and coax my wife. This is the last time I will coax my wife. Next time, don't even think about letting me coax you. I am also a man with dignity. Walking into the Empress's bedroom, Yihua saw that the Empress was currently sitting on the chair and daydreaming. What a foolish woman, she is definitely thinking about me. Cough. Yihua coughed lightly, reminding Donghuang Baiji that I, the Supreme Overlord, have arrived. Humph! Donghuang Baiji snorted and completely ignored Yihua. Yo, this little temper is quite big. Do you believe that I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to smash the porridge? Yihua placed the porridge that was in his hand beside the Empress, then said gravely, drink it. Donghuang Baiji immediately turned her head around and refused to look at Yihua. Is this the attitude you use to coax your wife? Looking at his wife's attitude, Yihua seemed to have made up his mind. Yihua lightly held on to Donghuang Baiji's delicate hand. The latter immediately prepared to counterattack, but when she saw Yihua's expression, her face was filled with astonishment. Right now, Yihua's expression was one that no one had seen before. Pouting mouth. That pitiful expression. Donghuang Baiji, who was looking at Yihua, felt goosebumps all over her body. Especially when she saw what Yihua said next. Wife, don't be angry. While speaking, Yihua was even shaking Donghuang Baiji's hand. Do you know who Yihua learned this from? He learned this from his son. Yi Yan often begged his mother to not be angry like this. To be honest, Donghuang Baiji was shocked by Yihua. Furthermore, Yihua's expression is the kind that is crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. Yihua, if there is something to say, we can talk it out. It is better for you to recover first. Donghuang Baiji hurriedly said. Right now, Yihua seemed to have changed into another person, and I still like that ice-cold Yihua. In order to coax his wife, Yihua became shameless for once. His expression became serious. Quickly drink it. Don't show that expression of yours just now then, I'm scared of you. Donghuang Baiji hurriedly picked up the porridge that was at the side. What's wrong with my expression? Thinking back to Yihua's expression just now, Donghuang Baiji immediately spurted out the porridge in her mouth onto her husband's clothes. I'm sorry, I couldn't hold it in anymore. Donghuang Baiji laughed out loud. If only I had taken a picture of my husband's expression just now. If I had nothing to do, I would take it out to take a look. Yihua snorted coldly and sat on the chair at the side. You don't have to worry about this matter, I have my own plans. Yihua said attentively. Donghuang Baiji let out a light sigh, then placed the porridge down and slightly lowered her head. You should learn from Qinya, don't take everything on yourself. There are some things that you can't control. Husband, am I very useless? Dong Wang Baiji said in a low voice. Dong Wang Baiji felt that she wasn't very competent as an empress. Yihua pulled Dong Wang Baiji into his embrace, then lightly stroked onto Dong Wang Baiji's slightly bulging belly. How could my empress be useless? You have already given birth to my second child. Go to hell. Are feelings meant for me to give birth to a child for you? Dong Wang Baiji was not willing to give in and began acting coquettishly in her husband's embrace. From the looks of it, Yihua's acting coquettishly was still effective. Of course not, you still have to serve me. But, I don't want to be a flower vase. Chapter 627. Yihua, do you still have a lot of enemies? Dong Wang Baiji asked curiously. In the past, she had heard Yihua mention a few enemies, but this time, Yihua said it in front of her. Yihua patted onto Dong Wang Baiji's face. All right, I will tell you too when the time comes. Yihua was thinking, if I were to reveal my true form in front of Qingye and Dong Wang Baiji, what kind of expression would they have? I reckon that they would directly faint from fright. Husband, tell me, Dong Wang Baiji immediately began acting coquettishly, hooking her curiosity out. To actually not tell me anymore, Yihua is truly becoming more and more naughty. Yihua pinched onto the empress's chin and said with a smile, when the two of you serve me together, I will tell you too. Ah, pervert, I'm going to ignore you. Dong Wang Baiji snorted, then left her husband's embrace and went to deal with Voidless Realms matters. Yihua did not chase after her. Today's mission to coax his wife has ended. I finally solved the problem of the Empress. After walking out of the Empress's bedroom, Yihua stopped his footsteps and looked at his sister-in-law's bedroom. Yihua decided to go in and take a look at Yutong. Recently, this sister-in-law seems to be very depressed and listless. Right after walking into the bedroom, Yihua saw Qin Yutong, who was in the garden. Qin Yutong was wearing a green long skirt and holding onto her small butt while staring at Voidless Realms sky. That exquisite chin, spotlessly white skin, and that sexy jade neck, she is simply tempting Yihua's nerves. Facing this sister-in-law that hasn't been developed yet, Yihua chose to avoid meeting her, in case he couldn't control himself and did her. If that were to happen, Qingye would definitely fight it out with him. However, this Yutong is truly becoming more and more beautiful, as if she is waiting for a man to develop her. Qin Yutong naturally knew that brother-in-law came, and thus, she put on this pose. Wouldn't brother-in-law be infatuated with her? Right now, every time he sees me, he would leave as if he is a flower. This is too vexing. In the past, you would often spank other people's butt, but now, you don't even do it. What kind of brother-in-law are you? You have already spanked your sister-in-law's butt, and now, you want to just pat your butt and leave? Seeing that Yihua still did not have any reaction, Qin Yutong turned her head around and looked towards Yihua, then revealed out a smile, and her pair of beautiful eyes curved into crescent moons. Brother-in-law, right now, whenever Yihua looked at Qin Yutong's face, he would have an impulse. Recently, I am not allowed to touch both of my wives, and I am truly sullen. If I were to really do anything to my sister-in-law, then the blame will be on the two of them. Yutong, it's so fun. After finished speaking, Yihua prepared to turn around and leave. Qin Yutong pouted her small mouth. What does brother-in-law mean by this? Is he playing hard to get? Alright, brother-in-law, you've succeeded. Qin Yutong could be seen disappearing from her original spot, and in an instant, she blocked Yihua's path and stared fixedly at Yihua's eyes. To be honest, Yihua was a bit lacking in confidence. Back then, I said that I was going to do something to my sister-in-law, but in the end, I was left to the cold until now, as if I was banished to the cold palace. Quickly go and play, don't stop me. Yihua's gaze focused, seemingly wanting to scare his sister-in-law away. Qin Yutong spread open both of her arms. Brother-in-law, if you leave today, I will tell big sister that you spanked my butt. You! Qin Yutong! How dare you! I, the Supreme Overlord, was actually threatened by my sister-in-law. How can I do that? In the entire world, who dares to threaten me? Even my own wife doesn't dare to. I am just courageous. What do you want to do? Qin Yutong stiffened up. Move aside. Yihua shouted out lightly. Qin Yutong transformed into a gust of fragrant wind and immediately pounced into Yihua's embrace, giving out her first kiss. Yihua was a bit stupefied. This sister-in-law is not acting according to the norm. To actually forcefully kiss me, outstanding men are like this. There's no helping it. After a long while, the two of them separated. Yihua put on a cold look and said in a deep voice, Qin Yutong. Do you know what you are doing? If I know that brother-in-law, you are pushing me back, Yihua. So awkward, my temper is indeed a bit heavy recently. Looking at brother-in-law's awkward look, Qin Yutong asked sneakily, brother-in-law, is sister-in-law's first kiss sweet? I still have a lot of first kisses, all of them belong to brother-in-law. This is simply a crazy hint. This sister-in-law is becoming more and more mischievous. Alright, don't let your big sister see it. Yihua's tone eased up a bit, but in his heart, he felt that it was very exciting. No wonder so many men want to have a clandestine love affair, so it is this kind of feeling, not bad. Qin Yutong seemed to know what brother-in-law was thinking. Brother-in-law, do you feel that it is very exciting? Exciting your head. Yihua stretched out his hand and smacked onto Qin Yutong's butt. Oh brother-in-law, why did you smack my butt again, and it is so heavy too? Not being honest. Qin Yutong didn't care so much, she just liked her brother-in-law. She immediately held onto Yihua's neck and kissed onto his butt. Yihua didn't seem to resist, and he even started to stroke onto Qin Yutong's butt. Qin Yutong, this girl who had never been touched by Yihua before, immediately felt like she didn't want to be touched anymore. Following that, her body slightly trembled, and the entire world seemed to have become boring. Brother-in-law, you are so bad, F***K, this is simply, brother-in-law and sister-in-law have a clandestine love affair series. Are you satisfied now? Hurry up and go back. Yihua shook his head. This sister-in-law sure is exciting. Brother-in-law is so annoying. I am going to go back and change my pants. After finished speaking, Qin Yutong ran back into the house. Yihua let out a breath, then thought to himself, Qinya, it was your little sister who seduced me. I only cooperated slightly with her. I won't take the blame for this. Right after walking out of the door, Yihua saw Qinya walking over. Instinctively, he wanted to turn around, as if he had done something guilty. However, when Yihua thought about it, how could I be afraid of my wife? I am thinking too much. Yihua, what are you doing? Qinya walked over and asked curiously. I was chatting with Yutong just now. Yihua said faintly, with a look of, I am a gentleman, on his face. Clandestine love affair is something that I, the supreme overlord, disdains. Qinya silently nodded her head. As the brother-in-law, you should advise Yutong to not set her sights so high. After all, she will be 30 years old in a few more years. That's right, I also said it just now. Yutong doesn't listen to me. Yihua silently nodded his head. Perhaps, Qinya, you don't know how thirsty Yutong is. Qinya let out a light sigh. If it really doesn't work, I just want Yutong to marry you. That way, I can be at ease. Hee, this Qinya actually tricked me. Do you think that I am a fool? Qinya. What are you saying? Pay attention to your words. Yihua shouted out. To actually come up with such an idea, to destroy the interpersonal relationship, this is challenging the bottom line of morality. Qinya pouted her mouth, then said solemnly, I am serious. Since you don't agree to it, then forget it. Looking at Qinya's attitude, Yihua didn't seem to be tricking me. Could it be that Qinya is really planning to marry my little sister to me as well? As expected of my wife. I have to praise her for this. Chapter 628. Yihua nodded his head, then said, actually, this idea of yours is not bad. After all, we are family. Right after Yihua finished speaking, he felt two unkind gazes. Damn it, Qinya was indeed tricking me. I actually naively believed it. I am still too honest. You want to hide this little trick of yours from me? Do you think that I don't know? I just probed you a bit and I found out. Yi Hua hurriedly explained. Being henpecked doesn't exist, I am just maintaining the harmony of the family. Qinya snorted, then walked into her little sister's bedroom. Yi Hua let out a sigh of relief. This Qinya is becoming more and more mischievous. Speaking of which, that fellow Lulu has 2 identical twins. As a leader, I can't fall behind. Although Qinya and Qin Yutong aren't twins, the expression between their brows is still very similar. If they can be together, with the addition of the Empress, the scene would definitely be very exciting. I seem to have a new target. However, this is a long-term plan. I should first deal with the current matter. This time, I have to teach Qing Tian a lesson. After gathering his subordinates, Yi Hua decided to have a small meeting. The location was naturally the lounge of Leisure Bar. I want to go to the toilet, but I can't stand there anymore. Furthermore, there are more ladies right now. It would be very inconvenient for me to go to the men's toilet for the meeting. Subordinate pays respect to your honor. All of the subordinates shouted out respectfully. Yi Hua nodded his head. I feel rather comfortable hearing such words. Recently, there is a demoness that is stirring up trouble outside. Yi Hua sat on the bar counter and said faintly while smoking a cigarette. Lai Gu immediately stood out, then cupped his hands and said, Your Honor, subordinate is willing to get rid of the evil for the people. Who told you that I am going to get rid of the evil? Yi Hua glared at Lai Gu. I haven't even finished speaking, and you already ran out. Lai Gu immediately retreated a bit awkwardly. Originally, I wanted to show off in front of his honor, but I didn't expect that I would be scolded by his honor instead. Yi Hua took a puff of the cigarette and said gravely, This demoness is indeed a bit strong, but she won't be able to defend against a sneak attack. Therefore, I want one of you to go and protect her. Who is willing to go? The entire lounge became quiet, not a single man stood out. The reason was very simple. They were all men with girlfriends or wives. How could they protect a woman? Then, their wives would be jealous. In the lounge, Zi Shan said softly, Yi Hong, this is a good chance, quickly accept the mission. Yi Hong still didn't know about Zi Shan's thoughts, and every single day, she would crazily probe Zi Shan. Even when she went out for a stroll at night, she would point at the women around her and ask, Are they pretty? Right, Yi Hong is very good at martial arts. Zi Shan, the person that I want to protect my entire life is you. The perfect answer. Yi Hong was in awe of herself. Zi Shan was very satisfied with her husband's reply, and a smile blossomed on her beautiful face. However, only Blood Devil and Fusher did not have a girlfriend. Blood Demon didn't get close to women. Furthermore, he had now been promoted to the management level of the bar, and he was able to manage the bar very well. Yi Hua's pocket money was also getting more and more. Do said, but now, Yukio had become smarter. He obediently stood at the back of the group, refusing to speak no matter what and refusing to accept any quests. It wasn't that Do Fusher didn't want to accept it, it was because he had also heard of the demoness. She was extremely savage and killed every man she saw. Just as Do Fusher was thinking, his left hand was suddenly pulled up by someone. Upon seeing that, LV Liang immediately cried out in surprise, Do Fusher, good job. Lai Gu said, as expected of a newcomer, his courage is commendable. Wei Chang nodded his head, as a newcomer, he actually dares to accept the mission. He is indeed courageous. Do Fusher, good job. Do your best to complete his honor's mission. Do Fusher was stupefied. Just now, my left hand seemed to have been pulled up by spiritual energy. It's definitely them. This is too much, too much. I don't want to go. Do Fusher rushed forward and knelt on the ground, Your Honor. Before Do Fusher could finish, Yi Hua nodded his head, seeing that you are so proactive, I will hand this difficult mission over to you. Do Fusher, what are you still standing there for? Thank you, Your Honor. Wei Chang said. Dou Fusher was actually stupefied. Dou Fusher has never felt such despair before. That woman doesn't even blink when she kills men. Aren't I just sending myself to death? Yihua naturally knew that Dou Fusher wasn't that woman's opponent. Yihua nodded his head towards Wei Chang, and a lump of black fog came out from Wei Chang's finger, which immediately drilled into Dou Fusher's nose. Meanwhile, Dou Fusher's body trembled, and soon after, he felt that it was boring, and he even rolled his eyes. After settling this matter, Yihua's gaze became serious. The subordinates didn't dare to be careless, and they respectfully listened to Yihua. I have decided to return 5 years later. In these 5 years, I hope that you all will study hard and use books and knowledge to enrich yourselves. When the subordinates heard that, they shouted out in unison, knowledge makes me happy, learning makes me grow. For such a slogan to come out from the mouths of this group of people, it was indeed hard to believe. They were just like a group of demons being forced by Yihua to attend high school. However, to be able to hear that his honor had set a time, the people from 7 deadly sins were still very excited. Although they didn't understand what his honor was going to do, seeing how serious his honor was, they knew that he was definitely going to do something big. Immediately, Yi Hong's body became hot, and he wished that he could go right now. Yi Hong also saw hope. This way, I will be able to display my masculinity and make Zi Shan worship me. Disperse, go back and prepare. Yihua said faintly. Yes. In an instant, everyone left, leaving behind only Dou Fusher, who was lying on the ground and foaming at the mouth, and the blood demon. Towards the strength that his honor bestowed upon Dou Fusher, the blood demon didn't feel envious at all. On the contrary, he was very satisfied with his current life. Those fights and killing outside are truly not suitable for me, the blood demon. So, it turns out that cooking and bartending are my true interests, only now did I realize it. Yihua looked at the blood demon and said, properly learn how to cook, in the future, I will leave my meals to you. Upon hearing that, the blood demon was overjoyed. What kind of glory is it to be able to cook for a supreme overlord? To go and bring harm to the common people? Subordinate obeys. Subordinate will definitely cook the most delicious food in the world for your honor to enjoy. Good. I will remember what you said, properly practice for the next 5 years. Yes. The blood demon felt that the blood in his entire body was boiling. This is simply even more exciting than fighting. With a large stride, the blood demon rushed into the kitchen at the back of the house. The corner of Yihua's mouth twitched slightly. Don't judge a person by their appearance, so it turns out that the blood demon isn't someone who will bring harm to the common people. After taking a look at Dou Fusher, who was lying on the ground and foaming at the mouth, Yihua covered his face with his hand. This Dou Fusher might be the dumbest person in my group. Chapter 629. Wu Yun Lang suddenly let out a cry. Yihua let out a deep sigh. These two are really stupid. After drinking a cup of wine, Yihua returned to Voidless Realm. The children still need me to teach them. 5 years later, the children will also have to carry my banner. However, even after 5 years, Yi Yan was still only 5 years old. A 5-year-old kid was going to be thrown into the outside world by his father to train. Thinking about it, it was really pitiful. When Dou Fusher woke up, he was stupefied. Looking at his surroundings. His honor had already left. I feel that my life has lost its color. His honor actually told me to go and protect a demoness. Is he joking with me? Standing up, Dou Fusher saw that blood demon was carefully wiping the glass. That focused look made Dou Fusher's scalp go numb. Brother blood demon, can I have a glass of wine? Dou Fusher sighed softly. Why was he given such a mission every single time? It was the kind that no one wanted to accept. Blood Devil glanced at Dou Fusher and lightly said, pay up. It can't be. Brother blood demon, we're a team after all. Floating Dou couldn't believe it. They were a team, so why did they have to collect money? Blood Demon said in a deep voice, "This is His Honor's order. Even if His Honor's wife wants to drink wine, she needs to pay for it." Floating world, does His Honor lack money that much? Do Fusher suddenly thought of a good idea. I don't know if bribing His Honor will work or not. I can try it another day. Forget it, I'll go complete the quest. Do Fusher said in a low voice. One mustn't be careless when it comes to the task that His Honor has given to them. If they don't complete the task, it's very likely that they will be kicked out by His Honor. I, Do Fusher, am also a man who wants face. How can I disappoint His Honor's order? Walking out of Leisure Bar, Do Fusher arrived at the side of the street. He sat in his 90s Santana and took out his phone. He only needed to watch the news to know where the demoness was. After searching for a while, Do Fusher had already confirmed her whereabouts. She was killing men in Nanyang City. How terrifying. Furthermore, when he saw the picture of the female devil, Do Fusher felt as though he had seen it somewhere before. He suddenly recalled that day. He divined that he was going to die. Could it be because of this? That was close. I almost died. It seemed that the rumors on the internet were right. This female devil only killed men with girlfriends. Do Fusher unhurriedly started the Santana under his butt, and a cloud of black mist emerged from his butt. Then, there was a dong 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 sound, a little like a tractor. When they arrived at Nanyang City, it was already night time. Do Fusher first went to eat egg fried rice and a basket of steamed dumplings to fill his stomach. After everything was prepared, he went to find the demoness. After experiencing the strength of his body, Do Fusher felt as if he had been reborn. Flying to the sky was not that strenuous, and he could even jump from one place to another. Then why did I drive here just now? I was so stupid. Do Fusher was jumping around with a look of curiosity on his face. Of course, there was also excitement. Who would have thought that his big brother's big brother would impart such a powerful technique to him? Thank you, Your Honor, for your great kindness. I, Do Fusher, will do my utmost until the day I die. I will definitely protect little big sister well and not let her suffer even a bit of harm. However, at this time, outside the suburbs of Nanyang City, Drifting Soul was ambushed. To be more precise, it was the poison that came from the ancient times. It was terrifying. In order to get rid of this departed soul, Ching Tiandi had put in quite a bit of effort, but he was still nowhere to be found. The Righteous Alliance led by Wang Debao and Bai Cixin were present. At this moment, Li Han had been temporarily sealed by the primordial celestial artifact, and there were various scars on her body. Her originally beautiful lips had turned black, and her entire body was emitting an aura of death. If he hadn't been poisoned beforehand, how could he have been sealed by an ancient divine artifact? That milk tea woman was so vicious. I detach my soul to kill stinky men for you, and you women actually bite the hand that feeds you. Wang Debao looked at the trapped Li Han and said in a deep voice, "Honey, this woman can't be killed even with an ancient divine artifact." Bai Cixin was also very surprised. He was first poisoned by the ancient divine weapon, and now he was trapped by the ancient divine weapon, but he was still alive. It was still healing, and it wouldn't take long for him to recover. As expected of someone who had reincarnated, he was indeed very strong. Ching Tiandi still wants to live, seems like he won't be able to. Bai Cixin let out a light sigh. Ching Tiandi wanted to subdue this woman. After all, he was currently lacking fighters, and this woman's strength was very strong. Of course, Ching Tiandi also said that if he really couldn't do it, then he would just kill her. Wang Debao felt that he could still fight for one last time, and he shouted out to Li Han, "As long as you obey us, we will let you go." A green cauldron could be seen floating above Li Han's head, and the cauldron was emitting a terrifying aura. A brilliant golden cage had trapped Li Han, and numerous golden whips were currently lashing Li Han's body. Every time one of the whips lashed, an astonishing airwave would be emitted. However, Li Han's expression didn't change at all, and even though she was poisoned, she still persisted. Humph. Stinky man. Wait for me to come out, I will kill you first. Li Han slowly raised her head and stared fixedly at Wang Debao. Wang Debao didn't doubt that this woman indeed had the strength to kill him. The difference in strength was too big. Stop trying to persuade me, it's useless. Bai Cixin's beautiful eyes turned cold, and a spear appeared in her hands. When the spear appeared, thunder and lightning rumbled, and the sound of thunder resounded throughout the world. Electric currents could be seen flickering around the spear, and the subordinates standing behind Bai Cixin could clearly feel that the spear was different from the others. It turns out that the Justice and Order Alliance is so powerful that they can even subdue this demoness. When Li Han saw the spear in Bai Cixin's hands, her gaze became a bit serious. Demonic woman. I am going to ask you one last time. Without waiting for Bai Cixin to finish speaking, Li Han snorted coldly, sooner or later, you will die in a man's hands. Fine. Then, I will let this Godslayer send you back. Bai Cixin shouted as she raised the Godslayer high in the air with her right hand and threw it out. When the Godslayer flew out, the white electric currents seemed like they were going to run through the ground, and the dazzling light caused everyone to close their eyes. Li Han really wanted to struggle free, but the ancient godly weapon's poison seemed to have been specially made for her, and coupled with the pressure from the cauldron above her head, she wasn't able to struggle free in a short period of time. As for this Godslayer, puff! Without any suspense, the Godslayer pierced through Li Han's body, and a big hole appeared in Li Han's lower abdomen. This was the effect of a chain reaction. As long as the ancient godly weapon was used correctly, it was entirely possible to kill a powerful expert. Just like Li Han, if she wasn't poisoned, she wouldn't have been suppressed by the cauldron, and if she wasn't suppressed by the cauldron, she wouldn't have been pierced through by the Godslayer. Li Han immediately spurted out a large amount of blood, and the blood flowing out of her lower abdomen was even more so. Li Han's entire body instantly became a lot more listless, and the color on her face also became less and less. Chapter 630. The followers cheered when they saw the female devil's appearance. The Justice and Order Alliance once again defended the justice of the world. At this moment, two figures landed. Spacetime branch is taking over. Wang Debao and Bai Cixin furrowed their brows slightly when they saw the two of them land on the ground. They had heard of the spacetime branch from Qing Tian. Xiao Yi used to be a field agent of the spacetime branch, so he knew what the spacetime branch was in charge of. It was to catch those who had been reborn. But King want to catch me? Why didn't you show up before? Now that I'm beaten half to death, you're shameless to the extreme. The followers behind them were confused. It was the first time they heard about the spacetime branch. Wang Debao looked at the two. One of them was obviously the boss. He had an imposing appearance, long hair, and a mole under the corner of his mouth. Wang Debao was relieved. She wasn't as handsome as him. The mole had played the role of finishing touch and ruined her entire face. The one next to him was not bad looking. He was Wu Lu, Xiao Yi's former boss. The other one with the mole was the director of the spacetime branch. Shi Zhengao, Director Shi. Why did they appear at this time? Just as Wang Debao had guessed, they were beaten to this state. Such a powerful woman couldn't be touched by the spacetime branch. They could only monitor her a little. But now they didn't need to monitor her. They could just turn on the phone and know where she was. This woman was too arrogant. You can go now. Wu Lu took a step forward and said to Bai Cixin and Wang Debao expressionlessly. It was as if he was the boss here. Before Bai Cixin could speak, the brothers of the Justice and Order Alliance disagreed. Fuck, who are you? Let us go. Who do you think you are? What bullshit spacetime branch? I have never heard of it. Shi Zhengao's face didn't change. He stood with his hands behind his back. It was as if nothing could make him emotional. Wu Lu couldn't be like this. His face darkened. A huge surge of spiritual energy suddenly spread out. He waved his hand in the air. A huge astral wind engulfed the underlings and sent them flying. How dare you! How dare you shout in front of the chief? Wu Lu angrily shouted. If it wasn't for the rules, he would have killed these people. Bai Cixin and Wang Debao stood firmly on their feet. If both of them were sent flying, it would really be embarrassing. Shi Zhengao suddenly patted Wu Liu on the shoulder. Don't be so angry. It's not good to scare the children. Wu Lu respectfully lowered his head and retreated behind Shi Zhengao. You must be the boss of the Justice Alliance. Let me introduce myself. I am the director of the Spacetime Branch, Shi Zhengao. We have been keeping an eye on this fugitive for a long time. We planned to arrest her tonight, but we didn't expect something like this to happen. Shi Zhengao's words sounded good. At least to Bai Cixin and Wang Debao, he had given them enough face. But Wang Debao did not look too good. Shi Zhengao, why was this name so unique? Could it be very high in history? Why not call him Shi Zhenchang? Because Wang Debao had to hold back his laughter, his face looked very twisted, as if he was about to hit someone. When Wang Debao saw Wang Debao's expression, it seemed like they were about to make a move. Right at this moment, Li Hun snorted coldly, "Do you really think that you can kill us like this? Wishful thinking. You damned men, I will use your blood to wipe my shoes later on." Shi Zhengao wrinkled his brows and stretched out his index finger. Baiu. A green ray of light shot out from his finger and directly penetrated through Li Hun's right shoulder. Li Hun, who was already heavily injured, once again received another injury. Shi Zhengao said lightly, "You still haven't realized your current situation." Despicable. Li Hun shouted out weakly. Another green ray of light shot out from Shi Zhengao's finger and penetrated through Li Hun's left shoulder as well. At first glance, both of Li Hun's arms were hanging down powerlessly. But even after receiving such a heavy injury, Li Hun did not make any sound. From this, it could be seen just how strong this woman's willpower was. In actuality, Li Hun just didn't want to show her weakness in front of that stinky man. In the past, it was precisely because of this that she was killed by that pair of adulterers. Never again. Shi Zhengao's action slightly shocked Bai Cixin and Wang Debao. The director of this spacetime branch was indeed very powerful. Even they had to use an ancient artifact to hurt Li Hun. But this director could do it so easily. Could it be that what he said was true? What happened tonight was just a coincidence. In fact, it was not. If Li Hun was at full strength, Shi Zhengao would not be able to do anything. Although he could fight with Li Hun, it would be a great risk for him. Shi Zhengao would not put himself in danger, nor would he do something that he was not confident about. In the end, it was just that he couldn't beat Li Hun. But when Li Hun was injured, Shi Zhengao could completely suppress her, so it could be said that Shi Zhengao was still capable of hurting Li Hun. Just like just now. Bai Cixin was also thinking about a problem now. This woman was very useful to the Justice and Order Alliance, even if she was a corpse. If such a news spread, the Justice and Order Alliance's status would rise to a higher level. After all, this woman had killed so many people, which had already caused public anger. If she handed it over just like that, Bai Cixin would be unwilling. Besides, there were so many people watching. Once she handed it over, where would she put her face? Director Shi, you also know that this woman has killed a lot of people this month. I have to answer to everyone, Bai Cixin said in a sweet voice. This credit was obtained by her and her husband risking their lives. How could he just take her away just because he wanted her? How was that possible? Shi Zhengao did not refute and agreed. Indeed, the appearance of this woman has caused a lot of losses. So, it doesn't seem appropriate for me to hand it over to you just like that. Bai Cixin was not afraid of this director. She had an ancient artifact in her hands, and with her husband's strength, she could still fight them. If God supporting heaven and earth came, the situation would be better. However, Bai Cixin was not sure whether God supporting heaven and earth would come, because this man was too scheming. She had no idea what he was thinking all day long. It's indeed inappropriate, but this woman is also very useful to me. I hope Miss Bai can understand. Shi Zhengao also had his own difficulties. Recently, he had to show some results. This was because he heard that Ji Yang from the Space Administration was inspecting the work downstairs, and it was very likely that he would come here. If he did not have a good result, it would be very embarrassing. The appearance of Li Han was Shi Zhengao's goal. In addition to what she had done recently, Shi Zhengao was sure that someone would go deal with it. When the time came, he would come out and ask for her. Chapter 631. Bai Cixin could sense Shi Zhengao's determination to win the battle. Shi Zhengao could also feel that if he wanted to get this woman, he would have to pay a price. It all depended on the situation. Bai Cixin smiled lightly. Bureau Chief Shi, why don't you understand me? After all, to catch this woman, I lost a lot. Then Miss Bai, how can you let me take this woman away? Do you want to fight with us? Shi Zhengao said softly. There was a serious threat in his words. If they really fought, they might not be his opponent. But Shi Zhengao didn't want to fight. After all, the time branch had rules. What he did now was already against the rules. If it was brought up, he wouldn't do it. But it was still fine to bluff people. How could they know these rules? What Shi Zhengao didn't expect was that Xiao Yi had unintentionally mentioned these rules. He didn't know if Wang Debao took it to heart, but Bai Cixin remembered it. Bureau Chief Shi, what you're doing shouldn't be against the rules, right? Bai Cixin was brimming with confidence. In fact, she wasn't weak from the beginning. This sentence made both Shi Zhengao and Wu Lu confused for a moment. How did this woman know about the space-time branch? Bai Cixin added and smiled, don't be too surprised. I have a friend who is your field agent. He told me about your situation. Who is it? How dare you reveal the time branch? Wu Lu shouted in a deep voice. Too bold. Don't you know you signed a confidentiality agreement? I'm afraid you won't be able to find him. He is Xiao Yi. Hearing Bai Cixin's words, Wu Lu's face turned serious. Of course Shi Zhengao knew Xiao Yi because he was also one of the reborn. His file was there. But he didn't expect that as a reborn, Xiao Yi would become a field agent of the time branch. It seemed that this Wu Lu did something behind his back. Wu Lu did hide it from Shi Zhengao. After all, Xiao Yi's strength was there. He was the most suitable fighter. But he didn't expect that Xiao Yi didn't repay his kindness. He even revealed the rules of the time branch. It seemed that he was wrong about Xiao Yi. When he was beaten up like that, he recruited him, but he used this kind of method to repay him. Damn it, it's good that he died. Miss Bai, what are your conditions? How can you give this woman to us? Shi Zhengao gave in. He did not intend to use force to snatch her, so he decided to trade. Bai Cixin felt that this was an opportunity. If there was something good to exchange, she would naturally accept it. However, he didn't know Shi Zhengao's bottom line, so he could only say, Director Shi, how much do you think this woman is worth? Shi Zhengao sneered in his heart. This woman was really smart. She actually wanted to trick him. What did the space-time branch have the most? It was the primordial spirit. Even if it was the worst primordial spirit, they would probably want it. After all, anyone who could cultivate an essence soul was an expert. However, Wang Debao and Bai Cixin had not cultivated their nascent divinities. Shi Zhengao stretched out his palm, and a golden sphere radiated light. When the primordial spirit was revealed, there was an uproar. Bai Cixin and Wang Debao also felt that this thing's energy was enormous. For the current him, it was a good thing. However, Bai Cixin also knew that this was probably not Shi Zhengao's bottom line. What is this? Wang Debao asked curiously. Drifting Soul spat out a mouthful of blood, what a bunch of idiots. They can't even recognize a primordial spirit. A primordial spirit. Bai Cixin and Wang Debao did not expect this to be a primordial spirit. It was indeed very powerful. I wonder if the two of you are satisfied? I want to exchange this primordial spirit for this woman. Shi Zhengao could see the greed in their eyes. This was good news. Wang Debao did not say anything. It was all up to his wife. He was not good at this. Bai Cixin hid her surprised expression and said softly, "A primordial spirit is enough to exchange for this woman? This woman is only worth this much?" At this time, Drifting Soul suddenly let out a low laugh. "Idiot, primordial spirits are also divided into high and low levels. This primordial spirit is the worst." Shi Zhengao's face darkened. He stretched out his finger again, and a green light pierced through Drifting Soul's chest. This time, Drifting Soul almost died. Now, he did not even have the strength to speak. Although he was already facing death, Drifting Soul's bodily functions were quickly recovering. This was the self-healing ability of a strong expert. If it was not for the giant cauldron suppression, his injury should have recovered faster. After hearing this, Bai Cixin chuckled. "Bureau Chief Shi, is there a difference between high and low levels?" "Miss Bai, how trustworthy can a witch's words be?" Shi Zhengao chuckled. In his heart, he wanted to kill this witch for talking too much. Bai Cixin sighed, "Then it's difficult for me. After all, you know how useful this woman is. Miss Bai is really greedy," Shi Zhengao said in a low voice. Another primordial spirit appeared in his hand, and the pressure it emitted was much stronger than before. Shi Zhengao said in a low voice, "Miss Bai, 2 primordial spirits for this woman, but I also want you to know that I am the bureau chief of the spacetime branch." This was a serious warning from Shi Zhengao. Don't push your luck. Stop when you're ahead is what you should do. Of course, Bai Cixin knew this. What she wanted to do was to squeeze out more profits, and now she was very successful. The purpose of this which was to increase the prestige of the Righteous and Righteous Alliance, but the Righteous and Righteous Alliance was still heaven and earth, not Bai Cixin's. But this primordial spirit could be used by itself to increase its own strength. So this trade was definitely worth it. As for the people behind them, they could just kill them later. Of course, this matter couldn't be known by heaven and earth. One should know that heaven and earth seem to value it a lot, otherwise, they wouldn't have given out so many ancient artifacts. Bai Cixin stretched out her slender hand. Shi Zhengao laughed and raised his hand slightly, and the 2 primordial spirits flew into Bai Cixin's hand. "Miss Bai is indeed a smart woman," Shi Zhengao said lightly. Actually, it was not a big deal to exchange for 2 primordial spirits like this, but Bai Cixin's attitude made Shi Zhengao a little unhappy. Bai Cixin said in a sweet voice, "Bureau Chief Shi should know how to use them." Shi Zhengao heaved a sigh of relief. He really wanted to give this woman a slap. As Shi Zhengao waved his hand, the 2 primordial spirits sank into Bai Cixin and Wang Debao's forehead. A fierce pressure suddenly bloomed, and the golden light between their eyebrows shone brightly, and it did not subside for a long time. After a long time, it finally calmed down. Wang Debao clenched his fists. Compared to himself just now, it was simply a complete change. Bai Cixin's face turned cold, and she slowly stretched out her slender hand towards her subordinates. These people knew something they shouldn't know. So there could only be one result. Chapter 632. When Bai Cixin stretched out her palm, everyone felt a strange spiritual pressure that appeared beside them, as if something was pressing down on them. "Alliance Master Bai. Alliance Master Bai. What are you doing? Alliance Master Bai, don't kill us." "That's right, we don't know anything, don't kill us." Bai Cixin wasn't a soft-hearted woman, she was decisive when it came to killing. This point was a bit stronger than Qingye and Donghuang Baiji. If Qingye and Donghuang Baiji were here, they wouldn't kill their subordinates. Along with Bai Cixin's clenching of her hand, the subordinates immediately exploded and died. Feeling the surge of power, Bai Cixin was very satisfied. Just now, that powerful being entered my body. I am much more powerful than my husband. Of course, Wang Debao wouldn't mind this point, because the more powerful his wife was, the more he would feel a sense of accomplishment. Why would he feel a sense of accomplishment? When his wife eats popping candy, that would be a man's sense of accomplishment. Good move. Shi Zhengao even applauded. In actuality, even if Bai Cixin didn't make a move, he would have made a move. After all, these people had seen and heard too much. Bai Cixin revealed a light smile. Bureau Chief Shi, this woman is yours. After finished speaking, Bai Cixin planned to leave with her husband. Right now, they still can't go and meet Qing Tiandi. The spiritual pressure is very unstable. I have to properly control it. I can't let Qing Tiandi see through anything. Miss Bai, wait a moment. Shi Zhengao suddenly had an idea. This idea was actually pretty much the same as Wu Lu's idea. Bureau Chief Shi, is there anything else? Bai Cixin turned around and asked curiously. I wonder if I can cooperate with Miss Bai. Cooperate? Bai Cixin was puzzled. She immediately started calculating the pros and cons. Shi Zhengao just wanted to use Bai Cixin's identity to do things for him. This way, the pressure on the space-time branch would be reduced a bit. Those field agents below them were still relatively weak. As for why they didn't distribute the primordial spirit, this was also the rule of the space-time branch. If the people below them rebelled, it would be even more troublesome to deal with them. Shi Zhengao nodded his head and said lightly, in return, I will also provide some help. Bai Cixin silently calculated in his heart. The ship sky supporting Earth was very unstable, and he really should find a partner to cooperate with. This space-time branch seemed to be a good choice. This primordial spirit could even be released. How bad could it be? The most important thing was that this was a cooperation. Compared to being with sky lifting Earth, they were subordinates. There was a difference between the two. This was also a way out. What does Miss Bai think? Bai Cixin pretended that she was having a hard time making a decision. She was putting on a show for Shi Zhen. After all, she could not agree so quickly. What kind of help can Director Shi give me? Bai Cixin asked curiously. As long as you help me, I will naturally do my best to help you. This is cooperation. Then how can I trust you? Bai Cixin asked in return. Shi Zhengao rubbed onto his sideburns and said eerily, I think, if I were to kill the two of you right now, no one would know, right? Bai Cixin and Wang Debao's faces darkened. Shi Zhengao was right. All right. After a long while, Bai Cixin finally agreed. It was better to have one more friend than one more enemy. Miss Bai is a straightforward person. I wish us a happy cooperation. A happy cooperation. The two shook hands and came to a consensus. Go and bring the person over. Shi Zhengao said faintly. Tonight's harvest was quite big. Yes. Wu Lu said respectfully. The decision that I made in private caused the director to be at a disadvantage in the negotiation. When I return later, I will definitely be scolded. Bai Cixin and Wang Debao were not in a hurry to leave. After all, they were considered to be partners now. If something unexpected were to happen later on, they still had to help. However, just when the husband and wife thought of something unexpected happened. A series of ghostly wails rang out from the sky, as if a person falling from a high altitude was crying for help. Wu Lu immediately became vigilant as he raised his head and looked at the night sky. A black figure could be seen flying over at high speed. To be more precise, it was flying over at high speed. Floating World let out a series of screams. Due to him being too excited, he didn't even know how to land. There's no helping it, I am completely unable to control my strength. Shi Zhengao tightly wrinkled his brows. This black figure was actually flying towards the cauldron. Wang Debao seemed to be able to hear a muffled sound as a piece of meat patty stuck onto the cauldron. As the distance got closer and closer, everyone looked at the scene of the accident curiously. Bang! The black figure crashed onto the cauldron. However, a terrifying pressure immediately spread out in all directions. This was the aura that was emitted out from an ancient godly artifact being smashed. The cauldron in the sky could be seen to be smashed into pieces, and pieces of the cauldron fell onto the ground. Without the restriction of the cauldron, Li Han fell onto the ground and was unable to move. However, his recovery speed had increased by a lot. The four looked at the scene dumbfoundedly. That black figure actually smashed an ancient godly artifact into pieces. How is this possible? Even Shi Jingyao exclaimed in admiration. An ancient godly artifact is much more powerful than an ancient godly item, and yet, this black figure actually smashed it into pieces with just his physical body. Just how strong is that black figure? Boom! Floating World's entire body smashed onto the ground. The ground beneath the four slightly trembled, and a large crater appeared in front of them. The pitiful Li Han was very close to Floating World, and thus, Li Han was nowhere to be seen. If Yi Hua were to find out about this matter, he would definitely feel that there is something wrong with his judgment of people. I asked you to go and save him, yet you buried him instead. As expected, you are even more arrogant than a husky. Floating World laid on the large crater and stared blankly at the sky. I was scared to death. Luckily, I didn't die. Sitting up, Floating World checked his body, and discovered that his body was in good condition, not a single piece of his skin had fallen off. However, when I fell onto the ground just now, I seemed to have smashed into something, and that thing seems to be very valuable. I hope that I won't have to pay for it. Suddenly, Floating World seemed to have thought of something. I am here to save the big sister, and I clearly sensed that she was here just now. Where is she? Floating World stood up and looked around, but I didn't discover anyone. On the other hand, there are 4 people over there. Floating World felt that I should go and ask them. It will be troublesome if I can't find the big sister. With a light leap, Floating World landed in front of Shi Jingyao and the others. Floating World revealed a smile on his face, and his white teeth looked rather clean. Just that, his clothes were a bit worn out. Did you all see a woman? Is she very beautiful, very fierce, the kind that likes to kill men? Floating World asked curiously with an innocent look on his face. I am just short of saying that I am an honest person. The 4 did not expect that this black figure was actually here to look for the demonic woman. Floating World immediately felt that the situation wasn't good. Wang Debao casually pointed towards a direction. She ran over there. Chapter 633. Dou Fusher looked at the direction that Wang Debao was pointing at, and he went into a daze for a moment. Soon after, he smiled and said, "Thank you." After saying that, he disappeared on the spot. His speed was so fast that it left people speechless. However, Dou Fusher was a little confused. He seemed to have seen this man and woman somewhere before. Where? Why don't I have any impression of him? Seeing that Dou Fusher had left, the 4 of them let out sighs of relief. Although this person was very powerful, his brain wasn't very good. The person he was looking for had already been buried in the pit. Fortunately, he's an honest man, Wang Debao muttered. Bai Cixin nodded. If she had met someone with a brain, she would have noticed that something was wrong. Honey, don't you think we've seen that man somewhere before? Wang Debao suddenly asked in a low voice. As soon as her husband mentioned it, Bai Cixin immediately became concerned. When she recalled the man's appearance just now, her face gradually darkened. Suddenly, he remembered. Hubby. At my brother's funeral. Bai Cixin said in a low voice. Wang Debao also recalled that the man who came to the funeral and babbled nonsense seemed to be Tang Wushuang's subordinate. But wasn't that man killed by his wife? That's not right. Didn't you kill that person? Wang Debao asked doubtfully. Bai Cixin heaved a sigh of relief and said faintly, maybe they just look alike. Shi Zhengao searched for the information of the man in his mind and found that he was not someone who had been reborn. Where did this man come from? Why was he so strong? Chief, we have to take him away quickly. Wu Lu stood at the side and reminded in a low voice. If that man discovered that something was wrong, he would definitely come back to kill them. Shi Zhengao agreed with her. Hurry up and take her away, lest a long night brings trouble. Go quickly. Shi Zhengao said in a deep voice. He couldn't stay calm anymore. However, Wu Lu had just lifted his foot when a gale hit him. Dou Fusher's figure appeared again. The four of them were startled. He had returned so quickly. He must have found something wrong. Sure enough, he couldn't be fooled. This man was still very smart. Dou Fusher turned around and smiled, revealing his white teeth once again. I dropped my phone when I landed, and it cost me more than 10,000 RMB. It's an Apple XS. What about Max? Selfies can even beautify your face. The four of them were speechless. Alright, I overestimated him. I didn't expect him to be such a chinibu. Shi Zhengao chuckled. It's really not bad. I'm using it too. Then he took out his XS. Max took it out. Dou Fusher paused for a moment, then actually walked toward Shi Zhengao. This made the group feel even more pressured. Why are you walking over here? Hurry up and find your phone. My phone's battery is draining pretty quickly. Do you have the same phenomenon? Dou Fusher looked at Shi Zhengao and asked curiously. Shi Zhengao regretted taking out his phone, but he still smiled and said, maybe you didn't download the system properly. It might be better to turn off some of the Bluetooth functions. Oh? Really? I just bought this phone not long ago, and there are still many things that I don't know. Can you teach me? Shi Zhengao, Bai Cixin, who was at the side, almost collapsed. Bureau Chief Shi, why did you have to take out your mobile phone? Other people just took the mobile phone and left. Moreover, the demoness was still buried in the ground. What if she suffocated to death later? What could Shi Zhen do? The man in front of him was very strong, so he could only answer his questions carefully. The few of them were about to collapse from playing Floating World, and he actually still asked how to take screenshots. Don't you know how to read the manual? Bai Cixin finally couldn't help but say softly, handsome, you haven't found your phone yet. Dou Fusher slapped his forehead. He had completely forgotten about the important matter at hand. Find my phone. Big brother, your business is to look for little Missy. He was not looking for a cell phone. Dou Fusher once again came to the crater and stood where he was lying. Sure enough, he saw his 10,000 yuan phone. I took the phone and looked at it for a while. Luckily, the phone's screen was not broken. If it was broken, it would be very expensive. Found it. Dou Fusher waved the phone in his hand. The four of them were very cooperative. They all smiled and even warmly applauded in celebration. It was as if Dou Fusher had done something amazing, causing people's scalps to go numb. Just as Dou Fusher was about to leave the crater, the mound of earth beside him suddenly slid down a little, revealing a fair and tender little hand. This caused the hearts of the four to sink to the bottom. It's over. Dou Fusher was stunned for a moment. A hand had actually appeared. What was going on? It should be a corpse, right? Let's not bother about this kind of thing. It's more important to find the big sister. That's right. Let's not bother about this. Dou Fusher could be seen walking towards the four of them. This action caused the four of them to be dumbfounded. They had no idea what Dou Fusher was trying to do. Aren't you looking for someone? The person is right there, why aren't you going? Dou Fusher just didn't want to bother about other people's business. However, when they saw Dou Fusher's action, the four of them heaved a sigh of relief. It's fortunate that there's something wrong with this expert's brain. Otherwise, it would be hard to say. However, Dou Fusher suddenly stopped walking. This stop almost caused the four of their hearts to stop. This man is too troublesome. Just by going back and forth a few times, he has already caused us to tremble in fear. Also, what is he trying to do now? Bastard. Can't you just do everything in one go? Do Fusher felt that he was a good person. The greater one's ability, the greater the things one could do. Saving a life is better than building a 7-floor pagoda, even if it was a corpse. Looking at Do Fusher walking towards the demonic woman, the four of them felt their scalps going numb. Didn't you see it just now? She had already left, so why are you walking back now? That's right. Do Fusher turned on the light on his phone and lightly tapped on the white arm. Not to mention, the arm is quite smooth. It should be a female, right? Looking at the color of the skin, it should be a beautiful woman. What a pity. Do Fusher grabbed onto Li Hun's arm and pulled. I actually can't pull her arm. How is this possible? Do Fusher took a look at the four of them. He felt that he had lost a bit of face. I can't even pull a single person out. Therefore, he pulled with all his might. Do Fusher had not gotten used to his own strength at all, and he had no idea how heavy his pull was. Li Hun's delicate body could be seen crashing into a pile of dirt at the side like a cannonball, immediately raising up a cloud of dust that was tens of meters tall. When the four of them saw this scene, their jaws almost dropped onto the ground. They felt that this man was here to kill the demonic woman, and not to save the demonic woman. Do Fusher was also a bit stupefied. When did my strength become so great? Just pulling a single person out can cause such an effect. This is simply too cruel. I've sinned. I actually massaged a corpse. Do Fusher hurriedly ran to the opposite pit to look for the corpse, and very quickly, he dug out Li Hun's delicate body. Chapter 634. When he saw Li Hun, who was on the verge of death, Do Fusher felt unwell. Isn't this the big sister that I have to protect? Why did she become like this? Do Fusher hurriedly wiped the little sister's face, wanting to confirm it. That's right, that plum blossom mark on her forehead is too classic. It's her. His honor told me to protect her, but just now, Do Fusher swallowed his saliva. This isn't good, and looking at the big sister's appearance, she seems to be dying. What should I do? The four people who were standing far away did not take any action. They wanted to know just what this man came here for. Do Fusher carried Li Hun out, then placed her on the ground. The big sister's injuries are so serious. Her abdomen, chest, shoulders, are all filled with holes. However, her chest was still moving up and down. Do Fusher took a glance at her chest, then immediately shifted his gaze away. So big, I should save the big sister first. If she dies, I won't be able to explain myself to his honor. Do Fusher lightly moved aside the big sister's hair. Do Fusher feels so beautiful, coupled with the plum blossom mark on her forehead, he is simply about to explode. I feel that she is even more beautiful than Zishan's sister-in-law. Of course, it's just a little bit, it's all because of the plum blossom mark. Do Fusher could be seen taking a deep breath, then opening Li Hun's cherry lips. Puff puff puff, can artificial respiration make such a sound? At least, that is what Shi Jingao thinks. However, from this point, it can be seen that this man came to save her. The situation is a bit bad. Seeing Do Fusher's actions, Wang Debao couldn't help but nod his head. As expected, cultivators can save people like this. I've learned it. Is artificial respiration supposed to save someone who is injured like this? You only know how to take advantage of others. Do Fusher is just a lowly robber. His first aid method is still very old-fashioned. Even if he has the ability now, he doesn't know how to save someone. Therefore, he can only use artificial respiration. He definitely doesn't have any intention of taking advantage of others. One must know that Do Fusher is an honest person. How would he do something as despicable as taking advantage of others? Although I feel that the big sister's mouth is very sweet. Li Hun woke up. She was originally injured badly, but after the restriction of the giant cauldron disappeared, she started to recover quickly. However, a huge force scattered the spiritual energy that he had gathered and buried him in the mound, almost suffocating him to death. Then, for some unknown reason, his entire body was sent flying, and his internal organs were almost dislocated from the impact. Even his healing speed was much faster than before. Just now, he heard puffing sounds beside his ears, his lips seemed to be moving a little, and there was even air blowing into his mouth. He opened his eyes. But when she saw a man. When he had kissed her with that dirty mouth, Li Hun had almost died. She hadn't even let that stinky man touch her, not even letting him hold her hand, but now, she had actually been kissed by a man. Puff. Soul Departing coughed up another mouthful of blood. It seemed that Li Hun had been killed by the adulterer and the prostitute for a reason. You didn't even allow others to touch your hands, so how could they not be angry? Do Fusher was relieved when he saw Soul Drift spurting out blood. He said softly, "All right, you'll be fine after you spit out the blood." Soul Departing's beautiful eyes bulged. Screw your sister's extravasated blood. If he could move his body now, he would definitely cut this man into pieces. Soul Departing looked at the 4 people at the side, and killing intent flashed in his eyes. These 4 bastards. Once I recover, I will definitely take your lives. Don't turn your head if you're injured, it's not good for your neck. Do Fusher helped to straighten Soul Departing's head. Soul Departing was in disbelief. What did my injury have to do with my neck? The 4 of them felt that they couldn't stay here any longer, and all of them disappeared from the spot. If Soul Departing could speak, something would definitely happen. Soul Departing wanted to kill this man in front of him even more now. He had actually used his hands to grab his head. Do Fusher didn't pay attention to the 4 of them. In his heart, he just wanted to protect Soul Departing, and he didn't need to worry about anything else. Looking at Soul Departing's strange gaze, Do Fusher laughed lightly. "All right, you don't need to thank me for saving you. I was just doing a good deed." Soul Departing was furious. "Do I need you to save me? You pervert, you are the same as those men, all bastards. Actually, do you know that we have met before? Last time when you stood on the streets, I told you to be careful, do you remember?" I guess you don't remember either. But, how did you end up in such a state? If I came a bit later, you would have been dead. Fortunately, I managed to save you in time, it was really dangerous." When Do Fusher said these words, he felt a bit guilty. It couldn't be that I caused her to end up in such a state, right? Hearing Do Fusher's nagging, Soul Departing felt that she was going to vomit blood again. Also, are you planning to sit here and nag for the entire night? My name is Do Fusher, what's your name? Forget it, cold and aloof beauties usually don't talk, I understand. But, who asked me to protect you, little mischievous fellow? After saying that, Do Fusher stretched out his hand and touched Soul Departing's face. Pooh! Soul Departing was so angry that she vomited blood again. Seeing that Soul Departing vomited blood again, Do Fusher felt relieved. Just spit out the blood and it will be fine. Soul Departing. Do Fusher looked at the mark on Soul Departing's forehead, and he stretched out his hand and touched it. "This mark of yours is really beautiful, was it drawn?" After saying that, he even rubbed his hands a few times. From the looks of it, it doesn't seem to be a painting. Do Fusher saw Li Hun's expression and was speechless. He swallowed his saliva and said, "I'm sorry, I just touched it out of curiosity. Don't look at me like that." That's right, Li Hun's eyes were about to spit fire. He actually dared to touch his birthmark. No man had ever touched her birthmark before. Bastard, there wasn't a single man who was good. Let's head back. It's getting a little cold here. Do Fusher helped Solus up. This was the first time Do Fusher was supporting a woman. Do Fusher's posture was a little off. He had touched a place that he shouldn't have. "What did you put on your body? It's so soft." Do Fusher asked curiously. Li Hun coughed out another mouthful of blood and fainted in Do Fusher's arms. Do Fusher stared blankly for a moment before smiling. "I'll be fine after vomiting." The 2 of them then disappeared from where they stood. Floating World had finally completed the first step of the quest, finding Soulcast and almost killing the quest target. Do Fusher arrived at his hometown, Weiyang Village. Do Fusher felt that he should first leave the little big sister here for a few days so that she can properly recover from her injuries. Do Fusher walked into the house that was built with mud bricks and saw that there wasn't anyone inside. All of Do Fusher's family members had passed away, and the only property left was this old house. The central house was pitch black. Do Fusher walked towards the small house on the right, opened the wooden door, and turned on the lights. Afterward, Do Fusher lightly placed Li Hun on the bed. Begging for monthly votes, begging for monthly votes, begging, begging. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.